Cunt. Can YouTube look into other apps' algorithms? I'm eating some fucking chicken. Waiting for my regulars to show up. See what happens. C-Plug. What happening, Boom? What happening, Boom? I saw your profile picture. C-Plug? What the fuck does that mean? You have to starve the narcissist. I'm eating some fucking chicken, bitch. Waiting on my regulars. I don't have any stories to tell unless y'all want me to complain. Bow! Let's see if we can hit this spider with my piece of chicken. He ran like a pussy. That spider ran like a little bitch. No. Y'all gotta let me know what the Shug Shaker is, man. I don't know what the Shug Shaker is, man. I know Rowan was supposed to do the Thug Shake and she didn't. And then that mad scientist. I don't know. No, the Matrix really wants me to, but I just can't give it up, man. I love women and I love having a penis, man. The Matrix can't turn this guy gay, I'll tell you that much. I'm too autistic. I'm too autistic to be affected by Matrix programming. I could whoop Sneeko's ass like Sean Strickland. Happy birthday, Nick. 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 Yeah, Keegan, I think you were in here too, Keegan. Everybody wish happy birthday for Nick. He would appreciate it. Is it Nick Her? H-E-R? Look at this fucking chicken leg, dude. Would you eat this? Look at this shit. Yeah. Sometimes we talk about Jesus, sometimes we don't. But look at this goddamn fucking chicken leg. That shit's gross, man. Look. You know what this looks like, man. You know what this looks like. Happy birthday, Nick. Holy shit. got some chicken. Yeah. It's because I'm in a cave, Jay. I can't see shit either. Except ghosts. And I'm picking apart this chicken. Yeah. All right, I'm back. Happy birthday, Nick. Happy birthday, Nick. Happy birthday. My mother is a cunt. Everybody in chat say Casey's mother is a cunt. What do you mean scrolled? You scrolled on my page? It's an everyday struggle, bro. I'm at war with the Matrix. Hey. Ah. How about you lanes? Because I'm sucker proof. Look, the spider's back. Let's bean it with some chicken. The slab. Where is it? I just killed a spider with a piece of chicken. And now I'm throwing it into the abyss. Oh, that sounds prideful. That sounds a little bit narcissistic, man. Everybody say, Casey's mother is a cunt. Come on, guys. My mom gets really upset when I hit milestones. And she goes out of her way to lie to as many people as she can to try to ruin my reputation because she's panicking. Will you go to jail? Will the Matrix come back for you if you say the word cunt? Cunt, 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 cunt. There's a cold place in hell for fat cunts. Until they learn what they did. Cunt, cunt. Cunt, 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 cunt. You have no idea, man. It's been 24 years of horrible things. And she's found my YouTube channel. So she's one of these people watching. And what she'll do is wait and try to find a way to hurt my life, if that makes sense. Like, she's lied to the police before. She lies to my family. And they finally caught on to her. They finally realized she's not this victim. She's not this horrible victim suffering from a horrible life. She's a malignant narcissist with a victim complex looking for sympathizers. So for me, the actual victim, to be actually making progress with the actually what's happening and not making up stuff like she does, it's really getting her uneasy. So she started to lash out like a child on public Facebook groups, trying to get people to believe that she's my savior. She's trying to use me for clout in a local Facebook group. I'd have a Cash App, brother. I have a Cash App in my channel description. I'd use it to make content. I'd use it to get an e-bike and an RV, and then if I had 10K, I'd use it to get an e-bike, an RV, fix my computer, start making content, get a camera, start live streaming every day, start putting on a show where I travel the world and showing the world to people that don't really go outside much. I'd start to make my music videos. I have 5 albums. I have 3 TV shows I've written. I have a big network of people that I was just waiting till I had money for. I would go hiking all day. I'd have a drone. I'd have I'd put myself in a position that I could help save others. So I have tons and tons of artists around Vermont that I know that are really talented that don't have the means to make their dreams come true. So I would build the means to have their dreams come true. I'd have the RV, and then I'd find like a multi-generational family with 100 acres, and I'd set up in the summertime. I'd set up gyms, and then in the wintertime I'd go and leave. I'd use it as like a foundation level. I might do truck driving too. So I'd do that. I'd put some like Central Asian shepherds down in that plot of land, and then I'd hire like a trainer for the dogs. My friend Haley's really good at training dogs. She's been doing it for like half a decade now. So I'd have her train the dogs with obedience, and then I'd have a small business selling those stuff. Or I'd just save it, get a decent car, and then upgrade my setup so I could finally get a computer, because I'd go on live trying to get a computer. RIP Pooh Shiesty. How would you spend it, man? How would you spend it, man? I would definitely get a computer. Bare minimum, get a computer and then move all my files from my broken computer that's sitting in a shack deep in the woods in central Vermont that probably hasn't made it through the tornadoes. And I'd try to salvage my album, and then I'd work on music videos, at least, just because that's my passion. That's my hobby. My passion is helping the world, but music got me through this horrible, tough times that we've all been going through. And I'm really proud of my music. So that's where I would start, is trying to get this computer. God has provided me with a bike. I started off on foot, and then I walked until I had blisters, and I couldn't walk anymore, literally, and I had to get somebody to it's kind of shitty to talk about, but I had to have somebody come and rub my fucking feet, or else the rash was gonna get so bad. Like, it hurt to touch. That's how bad it was. So I went from that to bikes that would fall apart when I'd like fish them out of rivers, and then different bikes broke apart. Got a shitty BMX bike, fell apart. Got another bike, it fell apart. One time I fell down a hill and it scratched up my whole fucking leg all the way up to my neck. It's just how it is, bro. I have a shitty phone. This is the light. I can move it like this. What's my charge at? My charge is at 9%, so I can't really go that far. But I can at least move so the background looks cooler. Coming down and coming on. Placed a good load on the ridges and something. I found God in your eyes. Let's see what happens. I can do this at least. Humbra. There we go. How's that? Ugh. There you can see the wild man. I'm behind a Freemasonic temple. Look at this. I'm actually in front of it. I'm in the capital of Vermont, in the exact center of Vermont. And I'm going to smoke a cigarette and I'm going to chill out. I've got shit to do tomorrow. So that's where we're at. That's what I would do. If I had 10K, the first thing I would do is buy a computer, upgrade my setup, and do what I'm already doing, but better. Then I might just start with one of those cheap, like for $80 you can put a motor on the back of a bike. Be a proud air breather. We're all air breathers. I hope one day I'm deserving of the title of proud. Sheboygan Lager. Yeah, where Pooh Shiesty at? I'm in Vermont. Where's Pooh Shiesty? I smoke cigarettes once, like a couple times a night. Sometimes I'll chain smoke if I'm blessed with a pack, and then I'll go deep on stuff that makes me afraid. Like I'll hash up childhood traumas and shit, and be like anxious on the live stream chain smoking. But for the most part, I have these American Spirit Blacks. They're the strongest cigarette you can get in America. So I do that, and I feel grounded for about 12 hours. I don't really need to go overboard on them. But if I'm talking like this, then I definitely need a couple. Hate to say it. Yeah. No, I appreciate it, bro. I definitely take time. Like I talk a lot about secrets I learned from somebody that works for the CIA about how to heal cancer and how to fix brain injuries and diabetes and Alzheimer's, and then how to use quantum physics to make reality work for you. So I definitely, I don't overindulge the shit, and if I do, I make sure to do the right thing to clean it out so I can keep going. Because we can't have Pooh Shiesty in jail and I'm out here chain smoking. You feel me? We can't be Pooh Shiesty. This guy's a scientist. I don't know what he's getting Pooh Shiesty out. We need a shrink ray to shoot Pooh Shiesty because he's getting too big. You feel me? ATF FBI sees crazy work. It's time to smoke some crack. No, it's not. Listen, I don't know. I can tell you for a fact. I used to lie. I like when I started going live and live streaming. I was on here trying to help people. So I was like, okay, you have a lot of these issues. You probably have obesity. You probably have addiction to sugar. You guys seem all spiritual. So, Pooh Shitty, yeah. When you stop eating, I was just telling them like, stop eating first off. Get your sugar addiction gone. Get your body cleaned. Do fasting, do autophagy, get yourself back to baseline so you could actually do the things you're trying to talk about. Like there was a lot of people talking about getting in touch with God and all this stuff. Like there's no way you can do it if you're obese. You have to clean your body out and let your DNA heal so that you can get to a place that you can actually take in sunlight and put the good stuff in. So, and I did that for like 3 weeks. I got a lot of people invested. I went from 150 from 100 subs to 250 subs. And then last week, somebody came up to me while I was sitting here and called out all the regulars on my live stream. He was like, "Are you Derek? No. Are you Larry? No. Oh, are you?" I forgot the guy's name, but he named 4 of them. And he was like, "Oh, no, I'm just looking for the guy that was trying to start a hunger strike against the government. Do you know where that guy is?" And I was like, "No, I heard that he might be down at City Hall, man, but I don't think a lot of people are getting involved with it. It really sucks, man. I wish that communities like this would show support to people that are out here trying to make a positive change." And he's like, "Well, I think you've done enough positivity. I think you've done, I actually think you've helped a lot of people." And then he left. Swear to God. I played along. I knew the guy was bullshitting and I tried to help him anyway. And he said, "I think you've helped a lot, actually." I am 24, bruh. I wish I was 21 still. When I was 21, I was in Miami working with pickup artists. And then I was in West Virginia helping a couple families out in a church. Yeah. I'm also the best person to dump your problems on. I always have solutions. Who's Jim? Where's the guy that comes in and... Where's Ghost? When I was 20, when I was in federal prison. Good for you. Nah, these guys don't want to admit that they're gay. You feel me? Most people would just scroll away if they don't. So I'm not. My body count's like 30, but if they found my live, I feel like they found my live for a reason. You feel me? Maybe it's that he's brainwashed and that he is traumatized and that he needs to lose his mind and come to his senses, go out in the woods, start fasting, sunlight, probiotics, ketosis, autophagy, neurogenesis, omega-3s, multivitamins, different proteins, maybe ashwagandha root, go push yourself running far into the woods, go camping for a couple weeks, come back, reprioritize your life, use the Higgs field and the Higgs boson to connect to a higher timeline, and then start to actually talk to God the way that God intended. And then you have to be brave enough to fight through that accountability, because people will be scared, bro. People will be scared when they realize the stuff that happens when you actually start to take care of yourself like that. But it's mostly just give yourself the love you deserve. And that's stuff that made the government talk to me last week. I was getting notifications every day on my live streams where it'd start flickering. My live would go out, and then a notification would pop up for a YouTube video for that guy. I forgot his name, but it's the guy in the CIA that works with he goes on podcasts and talks about what it's like to be in the CIA. So I would get notifications for his videos, even though I watched like maybe a minute of them, and then I'd go away. My live stream would flicker, and I'd get a CIA agent on my YouTube. Yeah. So this guy's trying to prove himself. He's what you call a compulsive liar. And he's banned now. You feel me? A lot of people make shit up. I don't. I just live a crazy life. It's 2:40 a.m. here. I can't sleep. Bruce Lee's a 33 life path. Only 30. Yeah. I mean, 30, that's not bad considering like 2 years. So most of my childhood was like complete solitude. And then it would have been like, I would have had 10 more, but I was in an institution, like from the movie Sucker Punch. And then I was in a pretty bad relationship. The girl that took my virginity, I liked her a lot, but it was obviously pretty toxic. And I had just gotten out of an institution for 2 years where you weren't allowed to talk or say things or that might offend people or take their emotions. And you couldn't touch people, you couldn't hug people. And my mom would just bait me all day. My mom's like a horrible person. She'd say, I'm gonna come here at 5 o'clock, be ready. Get excited, I'm gonna come pick you up. And then I'd wait outside the window looking through the little crack in the window. And she'd just never show up. See? I don't know if I want to be famous, man. Right now I was just trying to finish my artwork, finish my albums. And then I'd start to I can see the content that I want to make. So it's less like being famous and more that I feel called to make things. So I want to make those things because they really brighten my life up, you feel me? Yeah. But yeah, I've seen myself, I've seen myself on stage before. I can kind of recognize that I'd be a good emotional speaker. You feel me? Yo, Aaron, keep jerking off, and then one day your dad might be proud of you. I'm everybody's father, chat. Yeah. How you doing, Bruce? Thoughts on forgiveness? 3 more subs than me. I just go live. I go live and I stop. Like, I have this natural sense that I will just not stop talking for hours. And I can go for days. It might not be that quality content after a couple hours, but sometimes I just can't shut up. So I just go live, meet people. Sometimes we have people with problems, and then I solve those problems, and then that helps people. So the first 100 subs that I got was purely off of YouTube content, and then afterwards I jumped to 150 because I commented on a famous person's live or YouTube video, and then the rest has been just gradual And I got a lot of subs for YouTube shorts too. And then, but a lot of them trickled off and left afterwards. But it was mostly just going live and talking to the people, building a relationship and a community with a mission to keep, as you keep going. You only have 46. Well, just keep, you gotta have a purpose for what you're doing. You gotta know what you're doing, brother. You gotta know why you're doing it. Or else you should just do Twitch. Like with this, I'm trying to find people that are into it more. You feel me? More people that are like deep in the YouTube algorithm, and then talking to those guys, the people like I'm like diving deep into the YouTube search algorithm, and I find the people that have been here for a while and they don't really do much else. Who was that guy that told me I was in a basement? I'm in a palace. Ren and Stimpy. Thoughts on forgiveness. I think life is one of the biggest lessons I've learned is to not let the external dictate my internal condition. And it took a lot of betrayals to get there. It took a lot of heartbreak. It took a lot of like being, because I naturally love people like everyone's family. Like I just have unconditional love for everyone that I meet. I've learned how to be more stern to certain behaviors because I know that it won't go anywhere. But for the most part, I didn't have a family growing up, so I love everyone like the family I never had. So I've started forgiving people before they knew they did anything wrong, and then just cutting them off. And then putting all my stuff into progress and enjoying my own life, because I know that those people that hurt me they probably don't realize, and even if they do, it's like a small chance that they'll care. And then big chance they'll do it again, no matter what. Yeah, it's just the way the camera is. I can't do anything about it until I get a new phone. It's just a shitty camera. But it's better. The other phone had bad audio. Nobody could hear me on the old camera, but they could see me, and I looked HD. This phone, people can hear what I'm saying, but they can't see me, which sucks. But soon, man, I got $30. After a pack of cigarettes that I bought 2 days worth of Arizonas for $2 each, I have at $30. And people around town are starting to like me. People in town think I was funny today because there was a whiny little 19-year-old skinny fat boy that tried to give me problems. And I am a veteran of being outside that has had to kill people in self-defense with my bare hands and a hatchet. So this guy tried to ego check me because he thought I was an easy mark. And then I threw it back in his face in front of everybody, and he started to throw a temper tantrum in the store. And I was like, this is why we need more Mexicans. Because that guy was going to grow up and think that there was nothing wrong with him if he never met me. That guy was going to live his whole life living in that world. You feel me? How long did it? So this hair, 2 years. It's been 2 years without a haircut. 2 years ago during the Lionsgate portal, I fucked a big, not big, but a black queen. And she had me get a fade. So since I got that fade, I've been growing it out. It looks a lot nicer than people realize because of the camera. It's helped me get in touch with my ancestry, you feel me? Yeah, but what is homeless? Like, I don't have to work. I don't have to spend my whole day sitting at a place I don't like just to sit for a few hours and fall asleep in a pace that's overpriced. Instead, I've learned how to love being outside. Like, there was a time in my life where I was afraid to go outside. I'm not even gonna cap. Like COVID, I had a brain injury I've healed from. I'm back in Savant syndrome. You feel me? Are you? You're on thin ice. Yeah. No. I'm so proud of the man I've become. I've had to do things that I wouldn't wish on other people, but because I've experienced them, I'm very proud of myself. And I hold myself to a higher standard now. And the people I meet usually, like, I'm seeing kids that I grew up with in high school, and I'm seeing these adults, these like 45-year-old cops, and how they are. And they're not well because they never had this experience. I'm just living a different life. I'm going through a couple months where I live out in a shack and do bushcraft. Then I travel and go to a new city and I get to live outside, and or I'll go to like somebody's lake house and I'll sit on the porch when nobody's there and live outside the way that life should be. And I recognize how nice it was for the Native Americans. And then you can really see how far gone people are in the social matrix. People are messed up. Society is pretty messed up. And then because of my freedom from responsibilities, I'm able to connect to a higher way of thinking. I'm able to do more and feel more. I'm more of whole as a person. I'm more unique and individual. And then when I go into town, let me just tell you, it girls like me a lot more than the guys that are commenting. I hate to say it. People that talk like that, look at it. See that? Someone said, can't keep it real. No, you guys sound egotistical. People that aren't egotistical would say like, yo, how do you like your life? They don't come on here and try to shit on it, you see? You guys were being egotistical. So I was saying that when you live this life, it's unique, it's legendary, you do amazing things. I qualify for a Native American war chief. I've like joined the group chats and talked to them about my life, and they like me. And they said if I lived on the res, or if I had a certain level of blood quantum, then they would throw a whole ceremony for me because of what I've been through. I've wrestled somebody for a weapon. I've touched an enemy without them knowing. I've stolen an enemy's car, RV, but back in the day it would be a horse. And there's another one too that I've done. Is wrestle an enemy for a weapon, steal an enemy's horse, touch an enemy. Oh, lead an army to victory. And I've led tons of them. Like my whole life is just people tend to congregate around me when I'm on a mission to do something, and then we all end up doing that mission together, and things go well. Yeah. See? Keep jerking off. One day your dad will be proud of you. Most of them are really just upset because I'm producing content and they're consuming content. That's what I've learned. The basis of that whole interaction was that they were mad that I'm live and they're not. I woke up the robin on accident. It's not a robin. They're these little tiny birds that sleep on the ground. Those are one of my favorites. It's because I had a rush of positivity when I made a good decision, and that, like a speaker, kind of woke everybody up because the level I'm at with controlling the Higgs field. What time is it over by you? It is 2:52 in the morning. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, bruh. Forgiveness is hard for me, man. Because I kind of I naturally see everyone as an extension of myself. Like I take on all their problems. When I meet people, it's like their problems are like seeping off of them when I see them. And I just suddenly take them all on. It's like I'm like a vacuum for bad energy, and then I convert it into songs sometimes. My mentor calls it an emotional drive-by. People like to do emotional drive-bys. So I'm sitting out in public, so I'm taking in everybody's problems. But when I have I've had tons of kids. I used to open my house, like my apartment, there would be upwards of 30 people in a week that were living in my apartment with me that just needed a place to get away from their families and sit down. They didn't really do drugs. They were just confused. A lot of them were really scared because COVID happened and there was the BLM movements and they were all people of color and the police were like following them around town. And they don't even do drugs. They were like nerdy. But because they were people of color, a darker shade of wheat than that police officer, there would be a fat cop that's bald that would like spend the whole day following them around and like staring them down. Like, what are you gonna do? So they'd have to. I lived right downtown, so they'd have to call me, and I had a brain injury, so it was like hard for me to get up, and I'd have to walk down there, get in the way of the police officer, and be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And then I'd take my friends, and we go down to Dottie's, and we get some food and shit, and hang out. And every time the cop showed up, I'd just heckle him, because I didn't care about a charge. If you should, that happened in April, bro. It's just forgive, don't forget. Forgiveness is more for you than it is for him at this point. Like, that guy's, regardless of what's happening on his end, it's better to just be like, okay, I know that for the most part, people don't do that stuff if they don't have problems. And those problems are going to be with that guy until he fixes the problem. So, like, I want to say if we were all in an African tribe, this is a story. In African tribes, there was this guy that was depressed and suicidal because I think he lost a leg or something. He lost like a foot. He was really sick. He was older, and he didn't really have any friends. He was like a bitter person that was bitter for his whole life, and he would just sit around all day angry at the world because he lost his leg. And then a group of kids got together and made him a prosthetic leg out of like sticks and stuff. And then they gave him a baby elephant because elephants are really, really smart. Elephants can paint. Elephants do moon rituals where they all worship the moon at certain times. Elephants are like they're really smart. So they gave him a baby elephant to grow up with so that that elephant would be big for him and it would support him with his problems and it would listen to him. And then he fell in love with working in the field all day, walking with his elephant. He started to come out into the community more because he had more things going for him. He had an outlet for him to talk to. He had that elephant, and they fixed his problem because the community all worked together to help him with his issues. And then he became like one of the best farmers. I think the story goes is that he was actually better than the farmers that were doing it because he had his mind that was being used to be bitter and angry at his circumstances had shifted towards finding solutions and being productive because he had the support from the community. Which is why if nobody forgave him for saying mean things to them and they didn't help him with his problems, the whole community would have had more trouble getting food. They all would have suffered, but because they helped the person, it turns out he was able to provide more for the community. So regardless of like what happens and what the person does, you always have to see them as somebody that's they made bad decisions and it's not necessarily who they are, and that everyone can always change. So that doesn't mean like hit him up and say I forgive you, but that just means like understand that just because he made a bad decision don't let it affect you anymore. Be like, it's over with. That guy, what I like to say that they're going to get what they deserve, and the people usually do, because they go on to keep doing the same behavior until it gets corrected. You feel me? So I've forgiven all the people that hurt me, and I just don't talk to them anymore. I'm like, eventually they'll either come around or they'll stay in their delusion and get worse. Like my mother. because everyone's holding on to their problems, and it's driving them insane. But I don't let that affect me because I've already let go. I know John Michael is a narcissist, and he would come to my house when I was susceptible and had a brain injury, and he would try to tell me that he was siphoning my spiritual energy and he was trying to become me so that we would trade souls. And that was my little brother, would come to my house when I had a brain injury and would try to convince me that he was me and that I was him. And he would say that all the stuff in my house were his. He was trying to take on my personality, and then he was trying to invalidate me and brainwash me into not being myself. And then every time I let him in, he gets worse. Where a lot of the people that I cut off only come back to get validation that they don't have to feel bad for what they did. You feel me? Like when you cut somebody off because they're horrible and they treated you bad. What I've seen is that most of them only really come back. Like when I hit 200 subs on YouTube, like last week, tons of people came back into my life. As soon as I opened the message, so they said, "Hey, how you doing?" And they were sitting in the chat, two of them, two different people, were sitting in my chat on Messenger, just staring at the screen. "Hey, how you doing?" Staring at the screen. As soon as I started typing, they left the chat and never responded. They just wanted to see if I would still answer their messages. And it's probably, like, from what I think it's a simulation. So I think that that was a test for me to really be like, I already let them go. I'm not gonna go back. Because I know that in reality, the thing that they should have said is like, "Hey bro, I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry for the way that I acted." And that's why it happened twice, for me to recognize the pattern. I don't know if I want to, man. I don't know if I want to hit 1,000 subs. I care more about the art than I do about the numbers. I don't care about numbers. I only care about money because it's a means for me to do more in my life. I'm fine waking up and watching YouTube, and the crackheads are out screaming. These are demonic entities looking for attention. They're here to steal energy from people, whether you believe it or not. And every day has a theme. Today's theme happens to be people running around screaming downtown, and there's no events happening. They're all on drugs. Maybe they got a bad batch, but for some reason, when I choose to go live, I moved my live from over there 100 feet to more in town. And since I moved the live in town, so I'm constantly taking in this energy, now we have people screaming like zombies. Because it's my personal belief is that I've been psychologically tortured for a long time into having trouble holding on to focus and holding on to an identity. So when they have that, it's almost like part of me, it's like trying to draw me away from myself so that I couldn't, yeah, did it just hit 3 a.m.? Yeah. So it happened at 3 a.m., by the way. And it's happened enough. One of the sequences of events that keep so I can feel it. It's like a black hole. But I'm learning that I only ever experience my own reality. So it's not that they're stealing my life force so much as that they're trying to put me in a position to believe that I gave it away. so they could keep me in a lie perpetually. You feel me? And that's why they're trying to distract. I wish I had a speaker, man. I've been thinking about merch. I've been thinking about selling merch to get money because I find clothes all the time. I find cool clothes, and I know an embroider. Is the sun causing people to act weird? Some days the sun feels like it's the same sun that was here in 2020 and the same sun that was here in 2007. But sometimes when the sun goes by, I can't connect to it like it's not a real thing. And then I'll that same day when I find that connection in my mind, I'm like, that's weird. Why does the sun feel fake? I don't even have to say anything to anybody. My phone will just throw it into my algorithm, like some type of conspiracy theory channel talking about how China has tons of artificial suns and Elon Musk has an artificial sun, and that the plan was to put it on Mars, but China released their artificial sun into the sky a couple years ago. You can look that up. China has an artificial sun in the sky. So sometimes I think it's that. I think it's like a floating giant reflector, and I think one of them they were trying to put a nuclear reactor in the sky, and that's why in some places the grass is turning yellow from the radiation. Either way, I don't think it's the sun that's causing it. I mean, with weird, there's something called hold up. There's something. Yeah, she's coming at me. Yep, she's over there. They're drawn to me like flies, and it's always what the chat picks up. There's something called the Schumann resonance, and that is people are monitoring the frequencies of light hitting the planet, and when it gets dumped with heavy frequencies, everything gets weird. Like the molecules of our world, even in our skin, they vibrate at a higher frequency. Everything gets louder, everything gets more vivid and intense, and that's why people start to get sick. Like the coronavirus, I think, was a cover up for coronal mass injections from the sun, because the sun has been spitting out solar flares. Yeah. So when people are talking about in the time of Revelations, when the beast, the dragon, Drake, would be called out as the liar by the fiery Irish king, Jesus, Kendrick. Kendrick means fiery king, not fiery Irish king, but fiery Irish king. But in this Revelations, it's like the fiery king will call out the Drake to be a liar, the beast, and then Mr. Beast fell from grace. And then all the indigenous people have exactly where the Hopi Indians said that the buffalo will start having white buffalo when it's time for the thing to happen. The buffalo are starting to have white babies in at least 1,000 years. So that's all happening right now. So I think the trumpets that they said in Revelation, when they hit with the trumpets, I think that just means the high frequency of the Schumann resonance, because everything's music. So that high note, that ringing in the ears, that's what I think they meant by the trumpets back in the day. When they say the sky will ring with the trumpets of heaven, I think that they're talking about the Schumann resonance and the high frequencies that hit the planet. So that's happening. I could tell you that the crackheads are getting worse. The crackheads are going... So drug addicts, when the planet has the Schumann resonance, afterwards we always have some type of big storm. And then whether that's from the ocean because the heat waves hit it and then it caused more rain, or for whatever reason, as soon as we have the big Schumann resonance, it's all based on facts. The Hopi Indian, the Navajo had a prophecy about the white buffalo, and now there's white buffalo. All the stuff from Revelations has at least come out in a certain way that wasn't there before. And the Freemasons who run the country believe that the days of their system, their numeric system, hold certain energies in the collective consciousness, and that in the year of karmic 8, everybody's getting their karma for what they did in this past cycle. we're also, a lot of people are saying we're at the end of the Kali Yuga cycle, and I don't have facts to pull out for that because I don't know a lot about it, but that's just, I check in with people that have devoted their life to this stuff just to give me a sense of peace that I have some type of direction, because there are people that do this all day, every day, and those people are millionaires, and those people are one of the guys is a therapist for the wealthy elites. So he graduated at 19 with a master's degree. He was like a savant, and then he went into psychotherapy, and then he had a spiritual awakening, so he shifted to spirituality. He was like an OG YouTuber. He had like 1 million subscribers back when like 1 million was huge. Like back when Smosh was the biggest channel that had like 3 million. He had 1 million subscribers on YouTube. So he became like a guy that really wealthy people would go to, and he made a lot of money. And now he just goes on YouTube. He goes live for a couple hours. He makes a 20-minute video just talking about where the world's at. And I know tons of like famous people's name drop him all the time. A lot of people love him and value his opinion. So I believe what he says. I've met him a couple times. I've gone on his live streams before. Infinite Waters. Ralph Smart. I know Owen Cook. I know Ralph Smart. I know Elliot Holtz. Owen Cook watches my videos, but he won't give me money. So fuck him. I don't know what milestone he's waiting for. He's seen me solve all these problems. And his content has shifted to talking about what I talk about. Like the style and the way that I spoke when I was talking to Owen Cook. He just dropped a 3-hour video where he talks like me. Isn't that cool? Like every person I meet that doesn't, when I'm like asking them for help and then it doesn't work because they ego check me, eventually they fall from grace and then they start to sound like me. And that happens all over. I'm not, like, trust me, I'm not coming with any sense of pride other than I'm proud that I'm still here. But when I say that every single day of my life is dealing with tons and tons of different problems with people, and I'm the strong one. Like when I walk through a gas station or a grocery store, I'm around a bunch of problems, people with problems, fragmented, traumatized people with problems, and I just talk to them. Or sometimes I'll walk up and talk to a pretty girl when all the guys are there twitching and angry and like trying to fight each other for dominance because there's a hot girl. And they're like trying to fight each other for whatever so that one of them can work up the big bad wolf, whatever, so that they can go and play a character. And then I'll walk into the gas station and be like, how you doing? Oh, that's good. What you got going on today? Oh, that's fun. I heard this place is fun. My friends and I are trying to go up to Mount Mansfield pretty soon. I'm looking for people like that. You ever go up to Mount Mansfield and then talk about that? I'll usually let them talk more. And then they'll start stomping around, they'll start twitching, they'll start slamming drinks into the vending machine or the cooler of the gas station. They'll start to stand right next to me. They get pissed. Top of the morning to you. I'm O'Brien. I'm Irish. Daggett. I just heard the word Daggett just came to my mind. Doesn't that mean descended from the god of the day? Where's my smokes? Hop out your lane because I'm sucker proof. Don't play no games, boy, I'm buster proof. I found God in your eyes. Grand Rising. I thought that I was going to have $100,000 by now from YouTube. I thought I was going to be at 100K by the end of the year. And that I was going to spend all of next year rampaging across the country, taking over the YouTube space. With my friends and family. But you get what you want, not necessarily the way that you want it. Now I don't. I've realized, like, instead of fighting to save all my friends and family, I've realized they weren't worth saving in the first place. So I got what I wanted without necessarily getting what I wanted. I used to wake up every day, and from when I woke up to when I went to sleep, I was fighting for a way to find a way to solve the problems of all my friends and family that have serious mental health issues. And I was trying to make songs and art and incorporate them into it and help them pursue their dreams, and all the mental bandwidth that I gave up probably manifesting for them. Just to find out that they don't deserve the time or effort I was giving them, and they would never reciprocate. So instead of getting $100,000 and leading that specific army to war for their dreams, look at it, I just found a crow feather. Look at how big this crow feather is. Instead, I learned how to just, I learned that all of my problems that come to me when I'm suffering, when I think I have this mental health problem, I think that there's something wrong with me, like I don't understand what's happening, I feel like I'm not myself. I realized I was just taking on the problems of other people because I cared. I was like almost downloading their personality, trying to find a solution to this behavior that I didn't like. And so I was fighting myself as an extending part of myself as them, so I could get to the root of their problem. The same way I used to grow up and pick apart YouTube videos of content creators that I wanted to be like. And I would watch stand-up specials and try to copy their style, because I was trying to get into their head to figure out like the blueprint that they had to be able to come up with jokes on the fly and be able to game girls in public and stuff like that when I was young. Now that's kind of translated to me taking on people's problems. And what's weird is that when I cut them off in my own mind, so I'll recognize, okay, a lot of this behavior was my relationship with such and such, and I was letting them kind of affect me too much and almost becoming them, trying to figure out this way I was letting the relationship get too much. And then I cut them off, they'll go crazy trying to get back into my life. As soon as I cut them off mentally, in the physical world, they're trying to get at me heavily, even though they would never hit me up before. Nameless angel, life is always a flow against your direction. This is the fact. What do you mean if you're still here, what do you mean my direction? Are you saying that no matter what you're trying to do in life, life will be like this opposing force so that you have to swim upstream towards it? And that it's a challenge? Like that no matter what you want to do in life, there's always going to be opposition to force you to get stronger so that you can do more, and that perseverance helps you grow in individuation. Is that what you were saying? Yeah. I'm a target for narcissists, man. My hometown is full of narcissists that never left, and they have been stuck there for years. The best advice I have for that right now is clip farming, and I don't know how long that's going to be around. I'm on the fence. I don't know. I have to get I don't necessarily have to, but I want at least a dirt bike by the wintertime. Like I don't mind getting now that we have Temu, I can get a tent really easily and set up a tent with a wood stove. And I don't mind. It'd be kind of fun for me to go out and take the hatchet and chop down trees and then have fires that keep me through the night. Living out in the woods with a German Shepherd and then riding a dirt bike into town. But I don't want to be out here just sitting here hiding under a blanket. I want to at least have a means to live comfortably through the night. This is my 4th winter now. My first winter was in an apartment that had no heat. My second winter was in a car. My third winter was outside. And now this is my fourth winter, and I'm not trying to be outside for it. I want to be in a comfortable place that I can get around. So I have snowshoes hidden. I've hidden snowshoes and I've hidden skis in the past 40 miles. So that when winter comes, I'm able to get across on the snow. Or I might travel to like Arizona or something. I don't know. But I'm not doing it again. I ain't doing it again, bro. I'll get so upset. Like when I suffering in that cold, I might go crazy and have to kill someone again. Like I don't want to be out here running into the crackheads that are out here again. In the wintertime it's like living in like pagan barbarian times. Like everybody's only going to work and going home. There's nobody outside except the crackheads that have guns and have machetes and have pocket knives and have hatchets. And they're all pissed off because they're cold and hungry. So they're like lashing out at everybody. So to be out here is to put myself at risk for people that lose their minds and have weapons. And I've made it this far, but I don't want to do it again. You feel me? So that's why I was trying to get my computer. Because at the very least, I want the means to be able to record that when it happens. Like, everybody thinks it's so epic that Loaf goes into a Walmart and has to fight a Karen. Imagine YouTube prank content, but at the end of it, I have to fight someone to the death. Like Gladiator times. And the only reason that didn't happen is because these fucking pussies. I had to kill someone with a hatchet in self-defense. And the owner of the laundromat where it happened, even though I was the victim, they all treated me like I was the abuser, and the entire town went against me because they were all buying drugs from the guy that I had to fight to the death. And the people that I love, it hasn't even registered in their minds. They're so narcissistic and delusional and gone that they've never seen me as a human being in my life, no matter what. It's white pride. And I just never had it. It hasn't registered in their minds how much that I've been through, because then I wouldn't be. They would have to look at their own life and take accountability for their miserable, cunt, fat, gross piece of shit selves. You feel me? So I'm fighting to survive, man. I have to today for 12 hours today, man. Crows were screaming at me in the tent, and I'm just assuming that it's to force me to move. Like they don't want me to get too comfortable. But today I'm staying up because I have to go to the post office. Yeah. Keep jerking off, brother. One day your dad might be proud of you. Tyrannical? Am I tyrannical? I think I used to be, because that was the only way to solve the problems of the people that I was around, is to be that strong, kind of bossy, tell people what to do, you feel me? Like I had to like cut through a lot of narcissism and addiction. Real addiction, not like smoking cigarettes. So that forced me to become a tyrant, I guess. But for the most part, no. If I was a leader of like a kingdom, I would be a strong leader, but I wouldn't be like beheading people on the street for no reason. I wouldn't be like Joffrey. I'd be somewhere between Ned Stark and Robert Baratheon. Like I could run a kingdom. You feel me? I could run a kingdom. Because if people were forced to listen to what I had to say and do what I said, there would be dams all over Vermont. There would be the small, tiny clay dams in every single river, constantly generating power. And it would be mandatory in schools to teach people self-sustainable living off the grid. They would be learning solar panels. They would be learning these dams. They would be learning all the things that would be necessary for them to survive without the government. That way they feel happy and free enough to come back in and support the government. You feel me? We would be teaching them how to live by their own means so that they could appreciate the fact that they have people that have devoted their lives to keeping things going and they're not obligated to work for the government. They come back to support the government because they know the government helped them get to that freedom and that happiness. If the government, my kingdom, taught them at a young age to be able to go live off the land by themselves and they didn't need me at all, then I'd assume that if I ever needed to call my banners, they'd realize that they had everything they had because of me, and they would come back to support it. But maybe the only way to be in that position is to have slaves for a couple generations so that I have enough money to defend myself in case these people that I'm trying to save go rogue and try to come back. There's always something you can do in life, hold up. It's going down, bro. I could wake you up to the simulation so bad that you'd be afraid to leave your house. But it's the truth. There's something you can do in life, something new. There are many people in this world who suffer a lot of pain. Suffering is a reality of this world. Pain never goes away in successful people. There is no one person without pain and suffering. Only one thing is different in successful people, that is adaptability. I don't think Mark Cuban is suffering. I think Mark Cuban is a billionaire. I want to say he's probably sold his soul, so that might be his suffering. But if he didn't sell his soul, he has no suffering whatsoever. Maybe he stubs his toe on his way to get the best food from the best places. Yeah, when I was reading that, the image of you typing on your notes while I'm talking and then copying and pasting popped into my head, by the way. Yeah, I mean, life can seem like there's no way out. But in my life, like every time I've tried to commit suicide, it didn't work. I've tried like 7 times. I found that just leaving that life and then going somewhere else gave me so much purpose and so much adventure, and I'm so proud of who I am, and I'm glad I didn't kill myself. Because I'm like, if I'm not happy with my life, I know that if I just get in my car and I drive away, every town I step into is a whole new life. You feel me? When I'm not happy with what's happening in this place, and then I ride my bike 20 miles to the next town and I set up, that's an entirely new life. Yeah, I've been traveling homeless since I was 14. I was in different programs. I had different foster homes. I lived at my friends' houses on their couch. Then I traveled around the country. I worked in the music industry. I partied with famous people. I met my childhood heroes. I stormed the beach with hundreds of autistic men and taught them how to get bitches, how to talk to girls. Then I went back and saved my community, and I went to Burlington and helped train people how to deal with homeless people better, and I helped a bunch of rappers. I outperformed all the local talent in Burlington, Vermont, and then I got to outshine them, which I was really happy about because I spent a lot of time working on that. So I got the opportunities to kind of like when you do DMT and you meet like this fractal giant alien that teaches you about the universe. In a sense, that was kind of my life. Like I set up a tent at a public park, and tons of people on drugs would show up and freak out because they would feel my presence, and I'd have to explain to them how the universe works. Nah, this dude is gay, and now he's banned. I don't cap, and I'm not gay. That sounded like I said I was, but it's not. That's not what I meant. I meant that guy is, because he's on my dick, you heard? Okay, what are people asking? You're autistic, teach you your ways, father. Take it. No, he's in timeout. He's in timeout. I have about 10 people that come every single night to bother me because I've grounded them and they're still offended. So they show up just to hate me every night. And then before anyone can even read what they say, I'm getting good at it. I just bam. And he's done. I appreciate that. I've overcome a lot more than it seems. I'm really proud of how much I've done. And I've done a lot more than I've said. Like I've killed people in self-defense with a hatchet, fighting for my life and shit. You feel me? I put them. I ground my haters. There's like fat 40-year-olds that come on here. There are pedophiles that come on here. There are whiny drug addict 15-year-old kids that think that they're hood and they're not, that come in here. Someone said autistic. Hold up. Teach me your way, father. I went on YouTube. Every problem that I didn't like, so I just did like a life audit. I said, this is where I'm at. This is what I want to learn. This is what I want to get better at. I would just kind of daydream about the life that I wanted and the way that I wanted my life to go. And then when you do that, you can kind of naturally, with common sense, see at least some solutions. Like you can tell if you want something out of life, you can kind of see what you need to do to put yourself on your way. So then I would just force it. No matter what was going on in my life, I would force it. I learned to love going down to the basement and just working out all night because I knew that the endorphins would give me happiness chemicals. So whenever I was sad and depressed, I know that I literally can't be sad and depressed. There's a certain amount of push-ups you can do, and then all of a sudden that will just go away. So I would just do push-ups until I felt good. And then I started to look better. Everything seemed easier for me. I started to be able to outperform people that didn't do any push-ups and didn't have any form of mental and emotional discipline. And then I just learned a bunch of skills because I knew I didn't take my difference as a disability. I saw it as a blessing to be different because I was able to shine a new way of life. And I had I always knew that I had a strong mind, I guess, if that makes sense. Like I would beat my therapist in chess. So I always just like, if I'm going to, regardless, I'm just going to accept who I am and take it to the limit and be the best version of myself. And then I think personally that God worked with me with that. So God kind of gave me challenges and ironed out my chinks in the armor and stuff like that. So I was able to do more. And I ended up having, I want to say at least 1,000, but definitely more than 1,000 if you talk about one-on-one small interactions, like somebody scrolling like this, and they see me and they get a little bit, and then they go off with like, wow, that was a reference experience. Then tens of thousands, at least, like traveling the country 4 or 5 times. So I feel like I've done a lot because I developed into like this character, I guess. And I was able to do a lot with it, and I'm very proud of the women that I've been with and the people that I've inspired and the impact I made on different communities and the art that I've made. And I'm off the spectrum, bro. Like I'm super autistic. I have a lot of PTSD. Like I have a lot of bad PTSD, and I've been through a lot that keeps me like I'm kind of afraid to use my brain now, if that makes sense. I'm not schizophrenic. I'm just an overthinker. And I grew up in solitude, completely alone, for the most part. Even if I was around people, I was homeless and a child, so I was completely alone. So that developed me to think in different ways and not associate with the public. I never fell into groupthink. And when I did, I'd feel trapped, so I'd push through it. And people are saying that's what a Sagittarius is. Sagittarius can't get stuck; he has to shoot through the veil. And I'm a 33 life path, born on the 11th. People are talking about drugs. Yeah, I see aura. I see energy. The best way to, so Bruce Lee, I've been telling you this, Bruce. The Higgs boson, the God particle. Imagine nothing at all. And then reverse it and imagine everything everywhere all at once. And just keep imagining more and more, all your memories as a child, all the different things that you've been through. Put yourself back together. You understand that there's something called the Higgs boson, the God particle, and this is proven that everything is made up of one foundational ones and zeros base code, one main thing that's in everything. There's nothing, and then there's this one of the smallest thing ever in existence and non-existence, man. And that small thing makes up, in different structures, it makes up everything to do with reality. If there's a multiverse, if there's higher and lower dimensions, if there's all this stuff, it's made of that particle. And your thoughts are made of that particle too. Your skin is just your thoughts condensed into a different stage. It's all the same thing, making up everything in different systems. So when you realize that, you realize that there's a field of all of those particles connecting everything to everywhere all the time. So when I do that, then I realize that my thoughts and the outside, there's no separation because it's all connected through that same particle. There's no difference between the thoughts in my head and the bird moving out there. Our consciousness is not in our body's in our consciousness, if that makes sense. So then when I do that, then I can usually I'll naturally, like if I have water and I have sunlight and all this, I'll naturally, with fasting, come back to being fully present in my spine. My nervous system activates and I start to bring my presence back through my body, and then I'm here again. And then I just have fun creating and exerting my will on my surroundings, just playing around with the universe, co-creating, using the fact that the outside and the inside are connected and intertwined and dancing constantly. So when I learned that, at first that was terrifying to realize, because I'd step back and be like, what's happening? And then I'd notice that, like, when I get to certain levels of thought, my environment gets more chaotic. Then it's like random strangers come up to me if I have certain light energy inside of me, like certain peace of mind. And I learned to start to see that and pay attention to that, because I knew that it was information. I knew that it was all energy. It wasn't just like happenstance that it was passing through my body. It's not like there's a method to the madness. Like when you hear a song and you're walking down the street and suddenly a song starts playing in your mind. I just thought that was part of everyday human experience, so I never really paid attention to that. But when I learned how to expand this stuff, Higgs boson, and I would focus in on the song would start changing, and the song would start to show me things, and my daydreams would start to change, and I'd start to learn things from my daydreams, and I was able to adventure and explore in my mind when I was too afraid to find a way to make that work. It's a lot of breaking down to the bottom and then having to build yourself back up because you don't know what's real and what isn't. But eventually you'll learn how to live in complete unison, living inside the universe. And for me, I feel like I'm completely disassociated, and I live kind of like an exalted version of myself that's piloting myself like a mech. And that helps my sex game, man. that helps me. That helps my sex life massively. You feel me? Which guy? How many genders are there? There's 2 genders. People are talking about the Bible. They're talking about God. The devil wants you to win. This guy's a Virgo. Who's the Capricorn? Bruce Lee's a Capricorn. People are talking about psychedelics. So psychedelics, acid leaves you susceptible to not being in control of your own mind, and it keeps you permanently disassociated, and it's not good for you all the time. If you have years of what I'm talking about, like after like 2 or 3 years of me having to go through this, Now I can do a tiny hit of acid and I see what happens. I explore with it. I don't overboard do drugs. I'll take a little bit and see what it does, but I don't let myself go too far out of baseline because I have to be alert and focused when I'm out here because I've had crackheads run at me and try to kill me with hatchets. With mushrooms, also LSD was invented by the CIA to control people's minds. It naturally puts you in a state susceptible to mind control. Mushrooms want to teach you something. And you have this beautiful life full of different experiences that make up who you are. All these lessons you've learned from going through life. If you take mushrooms, you're putting a parasite in your brain. If the mushrooms don't like parts of you that might fight back against the mushroom, it will just kill that part of you. And then it will erase it from your memory, your software. So every time you do mushrooms, it's going in and deleting things it doesn't like, and you'll have no idea what it took from you. Does that make sense? It'll wipe your hard drive, and you'll have no way to get it back unless you go through your mind deep, trying to put pieces together, and sometimes maybe you'll put that neural pathway back in place on accident. But for the most part, when you do mushrooms, it just deletes as much as it can that hinders it from growing. It's a zombie virus, like it's a zombie fungus, basically. It does give you a heightened connection to nature. It will put you in touch with the mycelial network. It will let you talk to birds. It will let you empathize with deer. It will let you live outside of the simulation in a more intentional system. But it's also roping you in and making you become a part of the forest. Like, I did mushrooms and lived out in the woods, and it took me like 3 weeks to come back because I was connected to it. Even when I went out in public, the seagulls would come sit by me. And when people spoke, I couldn't, it was like we were different species. But I could sing to birds and they would come and hang out with me. I learned how to make the birds feel safe. But I also something happened where I lost control for a second, and then I went on my computer and I deleted all my songs. I wiped my cookies off my computer. So I lost years of recordings on a website of me freestyling and then picking out the stuff that I liked and then putting it together and then making. I had hundreds of songs that when I was trying to focus on the mushrooms, I was like, what is the forest trying to tell me? How come I can feel this buzzing in the side of my head, and I can feel like the woods are there trying to talk to me? And then the whole time I went onto my computer while I'm looking over here and deleted all my songs. So I lost a lot of shit for that. For just one tiny little stem cap of a mushroom with learning about the Higgs boson and being a really highly sensitive empath. I was exploring the woodland stuff, and then something piloted my subconscious and deleted all my shit. Because I had fragmented myself with the drugs. What else are people talking about? A Capricorn 33 life path. That's pretty cool. Is matter frozen light? I don't think it's frozen. I think it's condensed. So it's still moving like light, but it's just condensed deep. Like when you forge a sword and you're folding the metal over, folding the metal over, folding the metal over. There's actually more in the sword. Does that make sense? So it's the same stuff, this constant fluctuation of matter and energy, but there's just more of it together to house the third dimension. And I want to say it's sunlight, because we grew up in the sun's image. If the Bible the Vatican has a hidden thing, it's called a tabernacle. It's this crystal that when you shine it in the light a certain way, you realize that the way that the shape of light, the sun's rays are shaped like the angel cookie cutter. So when they say we grew up in God's image, part of that is that we grew up in the way that light shines down on the planet. So if we did grow up from a bacteria, we grew to be this shape, and monkeys grow to be this shape, because that's in relation to our connection to the light that's shining down in that shape. But also the same way you can close your eyes and imagine your room, It's not too far off to think that a higher dimensional version of yourself is closing its eyes and imagining us in this experience. So when they say you're made in God's image, it could just be that God is a daydreamer that's imagining this whole thing at a way higher level than we can imagine. By design, never mark your body yet. As I'm getting older, I think tattoos suck. I don't like tattoos. It feels like it hinders me. I'd rather wear cool, different clothes. I'd rather have fashion than tattoos. I like the ones I have now, though. Only was hooked on weed for 20 years, finally got off that shit. Good for you, man. 20-year habit, that's hard. That's tough, for real. Yeah, weed is tough. I learned this I had a lot of spiritual mentors. I went off on my own and lived in solitude for a long time, so I came to these conclusions naturally. It's kind of it's stuff that you come to when like I know a lot of people that did like 5 years in jail that came to the same conclusion I did because they had to just sit there all day. And I grew up in institutions like DCF, Department of Children and Families. I was like basically an orphan. What are you yapping about? Let's see if that's strike one. Let's see what else he does. Dude, I like you because you know suffering. Like some people, you don't fool yourself. The world is good. It's like, just because we're talking about spiritual stuff, there's no instrument that you can use to shine darkness on people. It's that the world is naturally dark, and then when you turn the light on, the darkness flees from that light. The light wouldn't be special if it wasn't housed in a world of darkness. Does that make sense? Is that guy? Yeah. So we have a hater. We have to just cut him off like fish. I had mushrooms once and hated it. My son turned 16. Good for you. Yeah, my computer. It's the screen protector on my phone. I can't clean it. I learned the hard way. These guys are arguing about stuff. Alright, I'm gonna go to sleep. Good night, Bruce. I hope that helped. Word of dumb survivor. I have some knowledge. I have wisdom. I have knowledge and wisdom, brother. Because I've been applying the knowledge. And it really works for people that have problems and want to have a better spiritual experience. Yeah, you have to hold I think it's different for everybody. I think everybody has a different way of expressing themselves in their mind. Like for me, it just seems like I'm outside, so there's cockroaches. There's cockroaches out here that come from my feet. But for me, I know when I take it as Higgs boson and I imagine light, and I try to hold a connection to something high up in the sky, like the Most High, and I try to raise my vibration and be like a pillar of light or like a stagnant tree. I hold that for a while. Eventually, it's like I come back into my body. I have more presence. I have more control over things, with that sense of peace, and not like the ecosystem where you're trying to like run and do things and build up your emotions from eating and talking to people. You can just do it naturally, pulling things from the ether and then growing. That's helped me a lot. Because when you're traveling, you start off with nothing every morning. When you wake up on the ground, you don't have a personality. You don't have peace. Because the forest is kind of eating it. The crows will scream at me if I don't do that. So I have to get up and then I have to kind of put myself back together every morning before I go out. So this is a guy on a dirt bike. It's the exact color dirt bike that I want to buy in the future. It was exactly what I had imagined riding. He just rode by on. So that kind of gives me conversation that might be next. Weed definitely lowers your vibration. Weed lowers your vibration and it cannibalizes you. When you smoke weed, you kind of eat yourself. It's like as soon as a little bit of weed hits my system, I suddenly shift and I like consume myself and I grow to like a different mindset. Like I shifted, like my whole world changes. And it's like I sacrificed the person I was before I smoked to become whatever I became afterwards. Which is why people in the I'm gonna tell you guys, gang members like to smoke weed, certain gang members, because they know how to the same way that when you smoke, you convert yourself for the high. A lot of these people will smoke weed and they want you to smoke weed with them so that they can convert you. They want you to get confused and scared and then they'll gaslight you. Yeah. So I've been in voodoo. I like dated a girl and had her bring her family out and they tried to do a voodoo ritual because they knew I was in the music industry, so they were trying to steal my connection to God, basically. So they got me high, and then they lit the candles in the essence. They started chanting, and I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. I was 21. I hadn't been home. Like, I'd gone through so much already, but I hadn't really I hadn't matured like I have now. Now I would know just to hold myself together, stand up and leave, and just walk out. Um, I don't like sex on weed, man. Maybe it's just me. Like, maybe it'd be better. Now that I'm older, and I have a stronger control over myself. I'm not like this disassociated, paranoid, always trying to figure out the unified theory of everything. It just seems like when I don't smoke weed, my whole presence is stronger. So even if I might not be able to experience it as vividly as as if I smoked weed, I know for a fact that when I'm around people that smoke weed, they all latch onto me. They see me as like the stagnant force, like the rock, the tree that they can hug, because they're all out of it and wispy and flowy and like living water. They don't know what to do. They're high as fuck. So then when I just kind of hang out, talk to people, play my video games, do whatever, and they're high, the sex is amazing for them because I wasn't high. And then when I'm high, it's suddenly like I have to argue with the girl, and she's always trying to shit test me, and there's like this back and forth with the connection, and she wants to be played, whatever. Like all these games when I get high because I'm more in tune with the feminine side from the weed. But when I'm just like this, it's like I'm happy to do whatever I want to do. I can just get up and work out, get up and go do stuff, enjoy myself, and then the girls like me more, and especially the ones that smoke weed like me more because they're feeling it at a way higher heightened level. So I get more out of life from not smoking weed than I do smoking weed, but I definitely like the music that I made when I could smoke weed and I could really zoom in and focus and be in that kind of masculine and feminine state because weed makes you feminine. It gives you estrogen. It hinders testosterone. That's a fact. But it's also something you can, once you learn how to control, you can stimulate and control your mind and work in it like software and utilize your body as like a robot. But naturally, it does. If you don't learn to take a hold of it, it will just pump you full of estrogen and make you feminine. So everyone's different. I just get more out of life from not smoking. And people be like, "You're boring," but I'm like, "Can you get?" They just don't know me. You feel me? They'll say you're boring, but then um, then a car alarm will go off and a gunshot will go off or something, and then all the guys that were like, "You're boring," oh my god, they don't know what to do, and they're paranoid and experiencing everything, and they can't get up and walk out the room and handle business. I stopped smoking weed because I needed to handle situations, and I couldn't sit around high. When shit went down, I would be ashamed of the mistakes that I made when I was high and fumbling. I loved the music that I made, but I couldn't be a leader of my friend group. I couldn't be the masculine one in the relationship, as nerdy as that sounds. When I smoked weed all the time, my girlfriend was the boss. But when I stopped smoking weed, I became like the rock that everybody held on to and went to for advice. And because I'm spiritual, I learned all this stuff about the Higgs boson. I was able to do the because when you get high, you know how you kind of the serotonin hits your brain, and then you can kind of shake off all your negative beliefs and expand your consciousness. I can just do that naturally now. I don't need weed for it. I stopped seeing weed as like a crutch, and now it's like I can smell. It's like I can smell a tiny bit of weed, and then the way that it hits my olfactory senses, I'm reminded of the process that I used to do before, and as long as I'm taking care of my gut microbiome, I can naturally, consciously force the serotonin in my gut to hit past my blood-brain barrier, come in and put all my focus on my third eye, vibrate out all the garbage in my head, drink fresh, clean water, and then work out, take a cold shower, shoot that up, and then I can get myself high for hours if I wanted to. I could live in that high forever, just constantly pushing the serotonin from my gut up to my brain and constantly pushing myself higher and higher if I wanted to. And that's why people like Eric Weinstein and the top quantum physicist warned Terrence Howard, who's a crack addict, not to study quantum physics because he'll sit there the same way that I'm talking about and delude himself and go off on that journey of the universe and just sit there you can just do this for years. Once you learn how to get yourself high from serotonin, you can just go for hours if I wanted to. But I get to a certain level where the crows show up, and then people come out here and bother me, and police show up and bother me, and it's like life will eventually start to attack me the closer I get to perfection, chasing this cycle of staying in a high vibrational state, doing the Kundalini awakening over and over again, and then escaping the simulation. And then I start to use my 33 life path powers of influence to craft a super ego, and then I take the reins and then drive into battle, and then I go have fun. But faith is essential. God is everything. Wisdom is key, and you can ask God for anything, even intelligence. Yeah, but I also think it's your higher mind. I think that we're shadows of a higher being, the same way that my shadow right here, and that shadow is a 2D representation of the 3D image right here. I think that these 3D images of us on this planet are shadows of our higher self that's way more intelligent. And I think that thing lives outside of space and time. So it's always like in every single aspect of your life. It doesn't come with you. You're orbiting around it, kind of. And I see my higher self sometimes. My fifth dimensional Casey. And when I see that, it inspires me to do better in my own life. But there's something that sometimes I can break into and I can daydream and have a connection with it like God. And then whether it's God or whether it's a higher dimensional self or whether it's aliens or whatever it is, bits and pieces of the puzzle come to me at certain times and they fit into me, and then I recognize another, like a big truth about reality and my own personal story that I'm living inside. And it's usually happened in such a beautiful way, in the most perfect way, that I cry. I don't think I can really cry. Like, I think like my mom would die and I don't think I'd cry. Or like my dog would die and shit like that. but the way that it comes to me where I realize all my suffering had a purpose and I have this whole journey ahead of me, and I'll recognize how far I've come and how much I've grown, and I'm excited for where I'm going in the future, and it comes to me usually in like a song or like an album cover or a certain way that everything's shaped is like perfectly what I wanted. So that's what's made me not kill myself. If I didn't have that, I would have killed myself. And every time I've tried to kill myself at least 7 times now, and it never works. I've driven my car into a pole going 90. I've overdosed on pills. I've jumped off bridges. I've hung myself. I always just wake up fine, and then I have my brain checked, and there's no issues with my brain. There's no issues with my body. I just wake up fine. So I stopped trying. I've been trying since I was 7 to kill myself. That's called Synchronicity. I have I have tons of dreams. I used to have tons of dreams. When I had friends and I had like a relationship network of people, I would have dreams where I was breaking free and like being glowing and being like this version of light. And then I'd have a dream that that friend was trying to stop me or steal it like a vacuum and suck all my life force out. But if that was, I just gave it back. If you were paranoid and thought that I was taking it, um, and then that person would call me immediately, and she'd have tons of questions, and she'd be in a bad mood. She'd be just constantly trying to ruin my peace of mind. I have tons of dreams that my family is working really, really hard to destroy me in the spirit realm. And then I'll open Facebook and there's like my mom's on the town page lying about me. You feel me? Trying to get the town to stop liking me. The best thing you can do is just be an example. If anyone that you want to help in life, the only way to help them really is to just live by example and live your own life to your best ability. And then they'll see that as an archetype in their mind that they'll change their vibration to. Instead of trying to teach them how to play their instrument and play their instrument, just play your instrument really well, and that will inspire them. You feel me? The best thing you can do for everybody is to just do the best to yourself, and then you become, naturally you'll be, like if you have tons of relationships and you live in a house with a bunch of family members, and then you change your life for the better, you shake up the whole snow globe, you shake up the whole place. All the connections have to change because you've changed. And then just be compassionate about it. Don't worry about it. Just keep doing you. And then you'll be an inspiration for your community. There we go. I know this rant mode is I know I start to sound like a girl, you feel me? A little bit. Cause I live outside, bro. No problem, man. If I don't know what country you're in. If you I'm trying to find a way to get a computer. So that's where I'm at. Then I have a computer, I can make content. Then I'm going full into content creation. I have music videos I've written out. I have tons of stuff I'm working on that I just don't have the resources for. So this is like if the world's ending, this is my way to kind of share what I know and kind of help people better their lives. And I see it as like I'm starting a wildfire. I'm starting a fire across the world right now. Because you're all in networks, you're in towns, you're in communities across the world. And I'm in the capital of Vermont right now, right outside the state capitol building. I sleep during the day. Right now I have a tent set up that it's nice. So it's on a hill, like a big hill, a steep hill like this, that I cleared out a flat space and I put a couch cushion on there. And then I angled the tent sideways so that the screen tent that's on the top, so it's like a big giant screen on the top that's covered. I turned the tent sideways so I have this giant screen view overlooking the town. And I just sit on my perch, and then I listen to the crows bother me, and I learn new skills to argue with the crows all day. And then I open up myself to the fifth dimension, and I start to rework my relationships and change stuff, and then I have old people that start screaming and yelling and slamming on their stuff in their driveway because they feel like, I don't know, but for some reason my presence makes old people very angry. And it makes crows mad, but it makes birds and squirrels happy, so... I'm out there in the woods, man. I'm a wild man. Trying to get a guitar. Trying to get a computer. Trying to get a dirt bike. Trying to get an e-bike. I don't want a moped. I want like an e-bike or something. Just making my songs. Trying to get better. I don't know. I know there is Wi-Fi in the next place I want to go to. But at the same time, man, there's going to be it's going to be a more active homeless environment with less police presence. So if I left here, it would be a more dangerous place. But there's also a gym out there. So I'd be able to go to a gym and shower and shit. Everyone's different, man. But you should definitely don't let anything affect you. Well, I'll tell you, from what I'm seeing, the people that aren't on this type of time, that are in like the groupthink social conditioning, they're not doing well. Like people that I see in public that aren't on this type, that aren't having these types of conversations, they're over dramatizing things in the wrong way. Like, I think people naturally want to see the beauty in everything when they grow up and they get older. They see I think they call it the complex simplicity of greatness, of grace. When people don't do that and they don't have that connection to like some type of creative outlet or something, then you have like the Karens that are like screaming and freaking out at little things, and people that go outside just to make everybody's day worse. So those people need these types of conversations. It's like I exclusively run into those people. Because there's like a contrast. It's like yin and yang. It's duality. I'm running into those guys that are on the opposite spectrum of me. Like I had a 19-year-old kid throw a temper tantrum in a grocery store today because I wouldn't submit to him. He was coming at me with a bunch of bullshit, and I just threw it back in his face. And in a way that everybody else was fine with what I said. They weren't mad at me at all. They were like silent supporters. And that kid threw a temper tantrum and embarrassed himself. These are American Spirit Blacks. They're very grounding. They're strong cigarettes. I like how I feel when I smoke them. It doesn't stop me. But at the same time, I don't like, I told you I'm a really high level empath. I'm probably, like some people say, I'm the highest form of empath possible on the planet. So when I deal with stuff like these people that go like this and they scroll, like I told you, earlier today, that guy that was, I don't know if that's you, whoever was copying and pasting the notes, where he was typing a lot in his notes while I was talking, and then he copied and pasted. I wasn't even looking at the screen. I looked for a split second like this, and then I looked away, and I was able to see him typing on his notes, copying and pasting it. The other day, in one day, I had 3 people that were all born on the 11th, the same as me. I'm born on the 11th, but other people born on the 11th came into my space, or I rode my bike to the gas station, and I could clock before I even got there. Even on all these cigarettes, I was able to tell they were born on the 11th because I can recognize the energetic biological signature that they're emanating. I could see the type of energy of the 11 on them. So I was able to be like, when's your birthday? 5/11? And they're like, how the fuck do you know that? And then we talked for like 2 hours. And then there was somebody here that when I got to a higher level, a higher connection to everything, where I got more focused and got back in my body, and I wasn't in rant mode. I was focused. Did you notice how I just threw the energy at the phone talking about this when I activated and started controlling energy, and I shut off the Wi-Fi for a second? It's real. Astrology and Vietnamese astrology is real. The only difference in a Chinese and Vietnamese astrology, I think, is the elemental year. So right now we're in a wood dragon. So pay attention to that wood element, whatever your element for that dog year. I'm a fire cat, Sagittarius. But it's real. It's just a part of this creation. It's real. Like, my dad's a fire monkey, I'm a fire cat, and my cousin's a fire snake. Actually, all my family are fire. And the year, just the way that the energy works with us every year, that elemental year. So the last 2 years, like if you go back through your memories and how everything was shaped for you and how you were taking in information and then changing information, the way that you listened to music, the way that you dreamt, the way that your imagination worked. Go back to the elemental year and you'll realize that it changed. So like the past 2 years before this was a water. 2020 was metal, the metal rat. 2021 was the metal ox. So everything was stuck and stagnant. Everybody was stuck in their house, rigid. Then we had 2 water years, the water tiger and the water cat. The water tiger, everyone was aggressive and fighting. They were using their stuff to go at each other. Andrew Tate, the kickboxer, blew up, and he's a tiger. That's when drill music was at its peak. That aggressive, forward-moving, melodic. You feel me? And then it was the cat, where people were playing mind games, and people were more focused on like the condensed information people had to share. And now we're in the wood. We're in the forest years. So if you notice, people like Will Survives have blown up. People are outside more. My albums tie into the theme of the year too. So I always knew that this year was it. My album for the year that I work on every year, because I kind of look into the future. I think that like all my Aquarius signs, people are saying I naturally am always looking forward into the future, and the Sagittarius in me is looking forward in curiosity. So I'm always looking and figuring out things ahead of time. So I've noticed that my albums that I make usually reflect the year that happens the year later. So last year, I was working, or 2 years ago, I was working on Sundance. That evolved into Sundance in my elemental year of the the year of the cat, in the water element. And during the year of the cat, I was working on an album called Storm, and it was more condensed. It was more close to nature. It was more deep. It was more dramatic. And now it's the year of the dragon with ancient wisdom, and it's a wood elemental year with the forest. And I always knew that this year's colors were going to be green and purple. And this whole year, my state has northern lights now, where the sky is green and purple the whole time. And then next year is the year of the snake. It's the end of the cycle. This past 12-year cycle from 2014, when I had to go into custody and I went on this journey. Next year is the final year for that, of that cycle. And then we move on to a fire horse. So I'm excited, but I know I hope it's divine timing, and I hope that there's no way that I can make a mistake. That's what makes me worried, is that I'm not doing enough. From what I've seen about dog years, a really good example of dog years, if you go to John Zerka, and John Zerka's a coke addict that does satanic rituals. So take it with a grain of salt. But he has a therapist that's a really, really good person. He has a therapist that lives in a penthouse, and he cares about his craft. So he's a really good therapist that studies every single day, applying it to himself. He's not like a therapist that's like my therapist, Marilyn Gabriel, that doesn't do shit and goes and kind of like half-asses her practice. This is a guy who's like in his late 20s that lives in a penthouse, and he has millions of dollars now off of being a really good therapist. And he just devotes himself to uncovering the truths about psychology and the universe, and he is religious, he's Christian. But when I see them talk to each other, I didn't know they were dog years, and I naturally could clock that they were dogs. They're a good example of people born in the dog year. There's a sense of loyalty that they have. There's a sense of like community and this fun-loving nature, but also this like grounded control. It seems like they really have the actual attributes of wolves, and that's not like a furry thing. That's not like an autistic, like the people that wear the furry costumes and have the wolf t-shirt and say that they are imbued with the spirit of the wolf. It just seems like I have photographic memory, and I'm naturally recognizing patterns. So I can tell that all the dogs that I've hung out with, now that I've learned how to empathize and like pay attention to things, the same social dynamics and the social structure, the stuff that I saw with dogs, I saw in those people. In the same way, like my dad's a year of the monkey. He's that strong, grounded. He's a Leo, born in the fire monkey. He gets mad and beats his chest. And I'm a cat. And what's my life? My life is laying down on the ground like this in public places. My whole life is just laying down in public places. I remember when I was really young, I would pretend to be a cat. Like I can remember like my first earliest memories is me like laying around, and I'm like I'm a lot like my cats. And then when I was 17, like one of my favorite videos of myself, like my friends recorded me messing with my mom, and I said, "Hey mom, I'm a cat," and then I knocked over something on the table because I got inspired to say it. Now years later, I realize I'm a cat. I'm in the year of the cat. I always preferred cats over dogs. I love my cat to death, Mark. And then I have dreams, like I get high and I see alien cats that enter my mind. You feel me? So I know that that's real, at least, that the earth expresses itself in different ways. And they've applied those attributes to different animals that share the same traits as the year. So there's like horse, rat, goat, monkey, and they all do different things, and they have different attributes and traits. And now that I'm learning more about it, I've started to be able to recognize those traits, and I'm able to accurately predict, at least on 11 days, because I've gotten to know myself. I'm able to recognize other 11s at least. Less so about the life paths are harder to clock because we have long, intricate, and expansive lives that deal with many different things, that we're on constant different journeys of learning. So it's harder to clock a life path. But it's pretty easy to clock a a day of the month that you were born on, especially now that the world is kind of evolving. It is evolving. Okay. I have 3 cigarettes left. But I have access to places where people... Thank God for stupid people, bro. Outside these government buildings, there are people that come outside and they only smoke half a cigarette. So I have access to tons of half cigarettes every couple days, as long as it doesn't rain. I'll tell you, Michael, so the tree, like, nature is all connected. That forest knew that you did that for it. So when you go into a different forest, that forest will know what you did for the other forest. I can't really tell you why, but I know that that's true. That when I go into a different city, and I've never hung out with the seagulls in that city, but I went to the last city, I went on South Beach, and I would give all the seagulls my food. When I was half of everything that I had, I would give to the forest, to give to nature. And then just along the way, I'd start to walk into forests, and then the birds would surround me the same way that they would surround me in places 100 miles from there. So it was like the birds naturally knew who I was. They would come around me more. Like, at first, or maybe I just, over time, I developed a kind of like energetic blueprint that I learned how to connect to the forest and empathize with it so that they could recognize that in different places. But I also think that Gaia is real. I think that the planet is like a conscious entity, in a sense, that everything's connected at a higher level. So I don't know why crows bother me all day. I don't know why, but they do. For some reason, crows haven't left me alone for at least 10 years. Everywhere that I go, I'll be bothered by crows. And the more that I'm picking up on the fact that that's happening, the harder they're going at me. So I don't know if it's just my personal simulation and that's my adversary for now. But it happens. Like, I'm constantly hounded by crows. And I'll tell you that the forest has definitely rewarded me for me helping the forest. If that makes sense. Like, birds will start coming out and defending me against people with bad vibes. One time I was with this shitty piece of shit drug addict kid that I was trying to help, and a peregrine falcon flew right in front of the guy's face and blocked the way. And then every time he tried to come to me, the bird would fly it back and forth. And the peregrine falcon kept looking me in the eyes, for real. For real. And that was in the middle of winter. What time is it? 4? Yeah, it's 4:30. I'm not drunk, but I've been talking for hours. So I'm tired. I spend $3 a day on Arizonas. And then I steal from supermarkets, and I dig out of the trash for Cumberland Farms pizza. Do you live in Australia or New Zealand? Where you live, Michael? Most of my subscribers are on Most of my subscribers are on reservations, I didn't know there was armadillos in Florida. I don't know why my algorithm gives me Florida. It puts me onto people in New Zealand. It puts me onto people in Chicago. And then I made a couple shorts about putting on indigenous people. So I have a lot of people from indigenous communities. Atlanta's a crazy place. Maybe in the future I'll do a tour and I'll go across the country to all the different cities and shit and we can turn up. I'm in Vermont. So I'm at the creative capital of New England. Vermont's got a creative essence that outshines everywhere else in New England. Because we have generations and generations and generations of spiritual hippie communes. And we also have the families of the Buffalo Soldiers. Bob Marley's Buffalo Soldiers, they're from Vermont. My own personal belief, I think that some places have portals above them that allow for higher vibrational energy to come in, that allows people to grow into being more beautiful creators, and the experience is a lot more vivid in certain places. I think that happens out in Arizona. I think it happens in Chicago. I think there's one in LA, but it's darkness, like a very bad place. I think there's one south of Miami that comes up from the ocean. I think that there's definitely one on top of Mount Mansfield, and it's proven. Like that Mount Mansfield last year, there was just this tiny, perfect circle rainbow above Mount Mansfield, and we have UFO sightings every night in that area. It's just natural to see UFOs. Chicago I think that some places have ways that higher vibrational energy can come in, and that makes the experience of the people that live around that more vivid and intense, and that people tend to be more dramatic and more creative. Like soul music came out of Chicago heavily, and that's where all the violence is too, because it's a more vivid experience for people. Everything that happens is happening at a higher level. And Vermont has that too. We just have white pride and hippie communities and the intermingling of both. And we also have the Buffalo Soldiers and a bunch of African immigrants. So we have this weird, it's just, so at the higher level, it's called the Golden Spiral. It's that, as above, so below, as within, so without, your insides are creating your outsides. And then the simplest things affect the things at the most complex level. It's the shape of the Milky Way galaxy, that spiral that goes out like this. And it's also Homer's Odyssey, the hero's journey. Like this. When I heard about soul music in the past couple years, it was all Chicago-based artists. And I'm talking more about the mainstream stuff. Like the mainstream soul artists were all out of Chicago. That's what I meant. I didn't mean it came out from Chicago like in the past. It wasn't invented in Chicago. But I mean the people that had pioneered that in a way that was influential to the world happened to become from Chicago. And also all my friends that were spiritual, all my friends out of Vermont that were spiritual and in the black community that wanted to do work to help the world, they'd sit in my house when I was making music, and they would get high, and I would watch them suddenly get inspired, where they were full of light and full of energy and really excited, and they all felt really drawn, like they had to go to Chicago, and they all went to Chicago and had a great time for a couple years, around the same time that Chicago had put on for soul music, back when people didn't think Chance the Rapper was corny, and people didn't think Kanye West was old and crazy. And there's a couple others I can't name off the top of my head. But Chicago and New Orleans. New Orleans is big too here. For some reason, people that have this natural connection to this higher vibrational energy feel drawn to Chicago. And the people here that are on the same way, but they've fallen into more of a negative way. Like they like darkness more than light, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But those people really want to go to New Orleans. And it's just like I'll sit with them and then I'll see them get inspired. And then I'll be like, what did you just think about? And they're like, I was just thinking about moving to New Orleans for some reason, moving to Chicago. None of them wanted to go to LA, but if that makes sense. Soul music to me, soul music to me is like not blues. What's a good sound for it? I mean, if you there's a 2020 soul music playlist I can link at some point, and there's a song on that playlist I can link. But I think all music came out of the South, really. All of American contemporary music has come out of the South. They just had the vibe at the time. They also had slavery, so fuck that. But Vermont just seems kind of diluted. People are more grounded in the South. It's like the love is different. In Vermont, we're cold and we're rigid and rugged. We don't really hold on to peace of mind. We're going out doing things, and we don't really like to talk at all. Like it's weird for me to talk to be a Vermonter and to talk like this. Nobody talks in Vermont. They don't talk to each other. They don't hang out with each other, and if they do, they're completely silent because we spend all day in the woods by ourselves. But in the South, it's like it's normal to see everybody on the street talking to each other and having conversations. Like even if somebody has a northern accent, I could tell they grew up in the South because of the way that they want to engage in conversations. Vermonters don't like to engage in conversations. They don't like to talk about anything. It's unspoken. We don't have to speak to each other. We can just hang out. It's just different. It's different everywhere. I don't like Noah Kahan's music. Noah Kahan's from Vermont. I don't like his music at all, man. I have a group of Irish artists that I want to put on that we just don't have the money for. So I don't know how I'm gonna get $100,000. I can't break the $100 barrier. And then as soon as I break the $100 barrier, something comes up I need to spend money on to buy, like to replace a phone, or back in the day I'd get a bike, or I'd go to places that would tell me that they wouldn't take food stamps, and they did take food stamps, so I had to spend all my money on food, thinking that I didn't have the means to buy food with it. Vermont's a weird place, man. Vermont's a really weird place. I think it's a social experiment for aliens. If I'm being honest with you, I think some places are like they developed in a different way than other places. They were able to become unique and develop in a much different way than most places. So Vermont's got a lot of weird stuff going on with it. I mean, but all the people, like the famous people, are coming to Vermont. I met MGK in Vermont. Theo Von comes to Vermont a lot. It's one of those places that people escape to, and they like it better. Like Vermont needs to be an independent state. It needs to be preserved. It needs to be one giant wildlife preservation. But right now it's being raped by New Yorkers. Everybody's coming in and buying the shit and then kicking out Vermonters. We're losing our culture every day more and more. And the people here have gone insane. The people here are, if they don't smoke cigarettes and smoke weed and sit outside and enjoy their life, if they're not that type of Vermonter that knows how to chill and maybe goes hunting once during deer season, shit like that, they've gone nuts. I went on live the other day and showed you guys that there are police officers that will just purposefully like push kids out of the way. So there would be like a group of kids throwing a frisbee and having a good time, and then the cop that's supposed to be patrolling this place would just walk into them and force them to move out of his way. And then he'll come at me later with all this ego validation, thinking that he like attacked them in this metaverse and got their spiritual wealth or something because he dominated them. And then he'll come at me with that type of energy. What are you talking about? Pouches like Zins instead of cigarettes? Yeah. I don't like Zins. All the Southern people are joining the chat. We started talking about the South, and the algorithm threw me into the Southern people. Yeah, how do you guys like the South, man? Do you think that people there are fake kind? Like people say in Vermont, people are mean but they're kind. People in the South are kind but they're friendly but they're not kind. People in Vermont are not friendly but they're kind. That's what they say about the North and the South, is that the South they're better at, look at this spider. I just scared it with my fire. Like everyone I met from the South says the South is they put on that they're really friendly, but in the background they don't care about you at all, and they're snaky. Here in Vermont, it's like natural for people, like when they go out in public, we just don't really talk to each other. We're all on our missions, we're all doing our stuff. We work hard jobs, we're logging, we're in the cold suffering. But at the same time, like, we're always happy to help your neighbor and stuff. That's what people say, but for me, I just get a bunch of fat white people screaming in my face. Yeah, Texas is like its own separate entity, I heard. When I think the South, I think like Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and then like the not Atlanta, but that like western part of Georgia. I don't even see Kentucky as the South. I see Kentucky as like the Midwest, Kentucky and Kansas, all the flat states like that, Oklahoma, Wyoming. Those are like the Midwest. That's not the South. The South is like the bayou with the river and the air is fresh. And the trees like drape a certain way. That counts as the South. Yeah, but the culture is different. I think Louisiana's the South, though. I think Louisiana and then the Catskills of Florida, or the Everglades, whatever you call them, with the Gators in Florida. I think that's also the South. But I don't think Atlanta's the South. I think Atlanta's its own entity. Because when I went to Atlanta, I didn't feel the South, but when I went to Tennessee, I really felt the South. And I think West Virginia's the South, too. I would count West Virginia as the South. Have I ever heard America is Egypt? Atlanta is the South. I haven't been long enough, man. I went to the Greyhound station, and then I went to Magic City, and then I took the bus and went. My Greyhound transferred over, and I went down to Miami. I didn't spend enough time in Atlanta to really get to know it, but just basing off the feeling of when I got there, I think. And I'll tell you that everywhere I went in the cities, the white people were horrible to me, and the black people were extremely welcoming. And I've just felt more at home around black people than I do around white people. It just seems like we're playing different genres of music. We just have different belief systems and come from different places. Maybe I just suffered too much as a child that I can't live in the la la land that they do. But it's also kind of it's a blessing that I'm in this place, because there's this heavy contrast between me and those people. So like when I pull up at the marina and there's a bunch of kids there, they find me interesting and they flock to me. There's just something about the presence. And then I get that same presence I found with people that were like vice lords that spent 5 years in prison, and they just got out. I got along with those people really well. I heard that Martin Luther King was a Freemason. I heard that Martin Luther King was trying to wake up his people that there were a lot more indigenous and Native American than they realized, and people are saying that's what got him killed. Because in the "I Have a Dream" speech, there was some things that he hid in that speech that if you paid attention, you'd realize he was saying, and it had something to do with black people being indigenous, and that they made up slavery. They made up a whole bunch of stuff to like take people away from their culture. Yeah. This guy said, who said he was Vice Lord? He's got tattoos and shit. I don't know, man. Do you know what's the motto for Vice Lord? If you know about Vice Lord, I'm sure you're Vice Lord, man. Not a lot of people know about it. At least where I'm from, not a lot of people know that Vice Lords exist because it's a prison gang. And I think it's based out of Chicago, right? Where they're based out of Chicago, and I heard that Latin Kings and MS-13 are getting out of control. Like there's too many of them. Especially now that after the immigration, people are really worried about what's happening at that level. But I don't know, I'm in Vermont, man. I'm lucky to see maybe I see 20 people downtown, maximum. This place is barren and empty. We're all Vice Lords in the chat. I mean, I left home. I drove my car through the border. I lived in Montreal. I got deported, and I went to New York, and I had to live in New York, so I was at a motel in a homeless program, and there was a bunch of Vice Lords that got out of jail, and they weren't allowed to leave their motel room. So I hung out with them. There was a Mexican girl that was there that had like a piece of shit, white trash, hick, skinny boyfriend that was he'd kick her door in the motel room to hook up with her, and they were dating. So every time they fought, I was just like, come into my place. Don't worry about this kid, he's a loser. And then he threw a chair through my window. I got out and I beat him up. I had Tim's on. I was like this close to stomping his teeth in, and a real adult tackled me a couple years ago. And then I guess he tried to come out with his dad's gun, and the police caught him, and he went to jail. So that girl, we passed her around between me and the Vice Lords, and then they kind of took me in for a while, and I went to Albany a lot. I went to nightclubs with them, with the guy that wasn't on house arrest. I went to nightclubs with him, Jamaican Jack. So I mean, I don't have it with me, but I have the bandana. I still have it. I didn't get jumped in, but they made me fuck a 40-year-old prostitute. So I did 3 pumps, and I hurt her so she'd know how big my dick was, and then washed my shit and left. And she was like, I think I found my match. And I'm like, well, I hope you guys have a great time, but that is not me. And I left. And then I DoorDashed. I got them a bench press. I got them a bunch of shit. I got them reclining chairs because they were sitting on the ground playing Grand Theft Auto. So I got them a bunch of shit, and then I went back to Vermont. So I'm not in technically, but I'm respected by the community, I guess. They know I'm not like the people that they deal with in Vermont. Vermont has a nightlife in Burlington. Burlington's it's got the best looking women in New England wind up at UVM because it's expensive, and they go there. But it's a brainwashed liberal city. Yeah, I've been homeless since I was 14. I had to fight my dad in self-defense, and he died of a heart attack, and then they brought him back, and then I've been going since. But I mean, I used to work. I'm a certified audio engineer. I used to work in studios in Ohio. I've been across the country a bunch of times. I know people like Epic Mealtime, Owen Cook, Elliot Hulse. People respect my opinion, and I'm not like a drug addict out here. It's like I'm a spiritual person that has a lot of crazy stuff has happened in the woods. that now I don't like being in society, and I just, for whatever reason, I tend to be going in and helping people. If that makes sense. I'm not lying. I'm also tired. I've been talking for 2 hours. It is what it is, man. I'm grateful for it. It's an amazing story. I like the way it played out. I'm really excited for the future. I have like 5 albums in the chamber. I have tons of music videos planned. I have 3 TV shows I've written. So I'm just going. Like I've on live I've manifested 2 bikes. I went from like a shitty BMX bike and then walking till I had blisters on my feet and I had to sit down to now I have 2 really expensive bikes that are nice that I'm gonna be able to trail ride with once I get the other one fixed. So I just see it as God's story. Right? This guy just got a free bike. Yeah, I'm outside the Capitol building in Vermont. I'll show you. Because I want to smoke my cigarette. I'm outside the state capitol buildings. Really, really poor, and there's a lot of crime. Kids there down there think that they're hood because we have Albany and Springfield an hour away. But they're all like from Putney, Vermont, which is like a nice hippie commune. But they brainwashed themselves on Instagram. And now they're shooting each other. We have a bunch of like 18-year-old white kids that watch enough Instagram that they think they're hood. They think they're, and they act like they're from the projects. They start run, some of them start running drugs for real ones down in Albany that are really out there. You heard? And then they come back to Vermont and they think that they're a lot more than they are. And then you have kids stabbing each other and shooting each other. And like, look how nice this is. Look how this place is beautiful. And I'm in between, there's mountains all around us. I'm in a valley surrounded by mountains. And we have kids out here that think that they're hood, that are shooting each other. But for the most part, like there was one kid named Rowan that when I got back from West Virginia and I had Tim's on, I had the brim on, I had a nice coat. I was driving a Dodge Magnum. I had a chain because I had just gone across the country, so I met different people. I got influenced differently. I used to just wear like thrift store clothes. So I learned to like take care of how I looked and appreciate things. And I had tons of different influences from different parts of the country. So I came back and this kid was like, "You're gonna find out how that 22 tastes. I see you walking down Canal Street again." And I was like, "Your girlfriend lives like 2 blocks from me, right?" So I went and talked to his girlfriend. I told him to pull up, and he's like, "I can't. I'm throwing a party." And this kid's texting me. I'm like, "You're not throwing a party, bro. You're like 5'6". Who the fuck? What happened in your life that's making you talk like this? Because you're gonna find out. I got mad. So that gave him some type of validation because he thought that he beat me. He started doing more drugs. He started selling drugs. He bought a real gun with a laser sight when he was 18. And he would just threaten kids like that and pretend that he was more than he was. And then eventually some like hard-working, buff, logger Vermont kid that does maple syrup every year and wears the flannels and shit, and he has like a German Shepherd dog, just saw him on a back road in Vermont and just swerved his car and hit him. And then kept driving away I think in a truck actually. He hit him with a truck. He was driving somewhere in his truck to go do Vermont stuff, like go hang out at the lake and smoke weed with girls and friends on a tube, and then start a fire and go camping and then go home and then work for his dad on a farm and go hunting on the weekends with his dog, and then saw that punk kid that thinks he's from Bronx and he's not, acting like he's from New York, running drugs for some real one down in Albany, trying to get these crackheads hooked, trying to get his friends hooked on crack and shit. And then he just swerved his truck, and I think the kid barely lived, but he lived. And then 2 years, I cash apped that kid $50 that ran him over. When I found out about it, I cash apped him $50. But yeah, those kids are coming in a lot more. Like every generation, every new wave of kids are getting more and more like that. They're getting more and more lazy. We're losing touch with like this way. So I'm kind of happy that I travel around Vermont and I live in the woods and I talk to people because I'm kind of outside of that delusion and I go in and make a change. I don't drink. I would drink coffee if I had money. I got no money. Or I'd have energy drinks and shit. I have one subscriber that sometimes they work, but they're landscapers, so the landscaping season is it's the screen protector. I can't change it. That's good. The best thing you can do for anyone is just be the best version of yourself. Like if you're not having fun in your life, um, and you're not able to provide fun experiences for others, it's probably better that you're kind of by yourself. It gives you an opportunity to do more. Feel me? Like I've done more for my family by not speaking to them and just focusing on myself than I did living with them and trying to change their problems. They're all full. They're all full of like 50-year-olds. So Vermont's got really good service. They have good benefits and they put people in. So what other like Massachusetts, New York, New Hampshire, Maine, people in Boston, people in New York City, people from even further away, because we have places like the Brattleboro Retreat, which is the oldest mental health institution in the country. What they do is they the same way Donald Trump's like Mexico's sending all of their rapists and mentally ill people to America to get benefits. America is sending all of its people to Vermont. So Vermont has a lot of it's full. We're full of homeless people. Yeah. You're probably talking about this guy. Look at this guy. This guy used to rape slaves in Freemasonic rituals. He would kidnap Native American women and he'd put them in his basement. And George Washington had one too. They had dungeons where they'd practice demonic rituals. And that's why they're not smiling. It's hard to tell. Yeah, shit's fucked up. All right. Yeah, any type of donations just sits in my Cash App, and I work on getting stuff that's betters my situation. So I'm trying to get the last wave that like I don't get money often, but the last time I had some money, I bought all these clothes, and that has helped my public opinion, and that's helped like when I go through town, people treat me with more respect and help me feel more comfortable and shit. Then it's just music stuff, working towards a car. I don't know if I want to be in a tent. I don't know if I want to go out to like the Navajo Nation this winter. I'm not sure what I'm going to do in the next couple months. I'm on the fence about getting a job at FedEx. I'm on the fence. I'm thinking like you can live with me. You'll help me out. It depends on where I'm at, man. What I want to do with the content. Like I might live stream and go across the country and meet all these people. Like I've got some subscribers that are in like Viking areas, and they have actual like rituals where they talk to these types of psychic mystics called dream weavers that show you your destiny. And then right before I met that guy that explained that to me, I watched a video about that where people were talking about that type of mystic psychic. And then I go on my live and someone offers me a way to meet that person. So I have subs across the world now. So I could definitely don't get get my passport, make shit happen, and then go out and travel and do things and make content with it. I don't know, man. Right now, I'm waiting for the election. I want to see what happens after the election, because we are at like Elon Musk has those robots ready. He's got robots the size of us that are stronger than us and can do everything that we can do. They can do our dishes, they can clean our house, they can go get groceries for us, like. And he said he's only going to charge about $20,000 for one, that a robot that could beat the fuck out of someone you don't like. A robot that can hold a gun and download software. So that's what I'm mainly waiting on. Just kind of upgrade my setup. Yeah. I hope everybody will look out for everybody. Because right now it's us against people that have access to robots and vaccines and mosquitoes. Like they have, and this is the boxer Ryan Garcia just went on a Vitaly stream on Kick to catch pedophiles. And Ryan Garcia is the guy that like goes on and says a bunch of shit about the Matrix. And Andrew Tate told him about, like, I'm just warning you, bro. I tried, look what happened to me. And Ryan Garcia says that they have nanotechnology. They have they have cells that hold chips that they all work together with artificial intelligence to make you a superhuman. They have all that. So at any moment, shit could hit the fan. Like, don't worry about it. Don't stress out about it. But just be prepared. I've got a bike. I'm doing push-ups. I'm biking up the mountain now. I'm able to, like, do more and go more places. I've lived out in the woods long enough now. I know the different types of berries. It's just, hopefully I can get a computer soon. And then I can start to, like, spend my day researching, like, bug-out bags, off-grid stuff, getting almanacs with all your different states, like handbooks for how to live outside in the woods in your state, eating all the different berries and the plants that are good for you and bad for you, different stuff like that, to kind of give people a fighting chance, and then let them live and thrive in the new world instead of having to suffer. Like, I encourage people that want to travel to go on Marketplace and hit it to 500 miles and look up free boats. And then you can find a sailboat that might not have a motor, but the sail works. And then you can just maybe save up for a week, have him talk to that guy that has a boat, because he definitely knows people that has a way to move boats if he has a boat. So just talk to him about getting the boat in the water, and then you can just sit in the water with the anchor down somewhere, and then watch YouTube videos on how to sail. Learn how to sail, and then you have a way to get across the world. If you really needed to, you could get down to Miami across the coast, and then you could get down to Puerto Rico and Cuba, or down through the Gulf of Mexico, along the coastline and shit. And then if you wanted to, you could put that later on, if you had money, you started making content or something like that, you could put that boat on a bigger boat and have that take you across to Europe, and then you could go across Italy and enjoy everything for free, fishing for food and living on a sailboat that's powered by the wind. And then you could eventually save up and get a solar panel, Starlink internet, and a computer. And then you get the right VPN, and you could do Tor browser, and then you could kind of survive if shit hit the fan. I'm in the Appalachians right now. You mean if shit hit the fan, don't go to the Appalachians? But yeah, that's what I people that want to travel that are on a budget, that's what I tell them. And shout out Uncle Will for putting me onto that. Down in Florida, He told me about getting a sailboat, and I only didn't because I didn't really. I wanted to keep going north in Vermont to get to Mount Mansfield before I left. Before I left, I really wanted to power through and see if I could make a change in Vermont. And it's just more and more that it's obvious people need a change. Like society's gone. At least in Vermont, there's no community. There's nothing going on. People are brainwashed and out of control. People are so far out of reality, and they're just messed up. And it's better when I go in the woods and then I come into society from that, because then I'm setting an example and I'm helping people, and I have the peace of mind to be there in a conversation to help people feel more comfortable to speak. And then whenever I get into that, yeah. So the first people that were in Vermont were the Buffalo Soldiers, the 200 black families that were from the north, or they escaped the south, and then they joined the Buffalo Soldiers and they trained, and they all worked together, and then they went down together and went to fight the South about slavery. And then when they were done, all the Buffalo Soldiers, like Bob Marley's song Buffalo Soldiers, they lived in Vermont. So Vermont's got a lot of multi-generational black families that have been here for a long time that weren't involved in segregation and slavery, that actually fought to defend civil rights and live in harmony with nature and all that. So there was no real segregation in Vermont. There was definitely like turmoil. There was back and forth. Like I meet racist people sometimes. You feel me? I don't know why this car's here. I don't like that. I don't like that at all, bro. But we had that. We also have a lot of African immigrant families. So a lot of the people of color, or black people, however you'd prefer it, actual African Americans. We have actual like maybe like I'll meet a girl and it's her grandfather that immigrated from, I want to say Mozambique, but I don't know where that is. I think one of them was from Mozambique. I don't want to say that's from Africa if it's not, but I know one family immigrated from Mozambique. A lot of Kenya, some Nigerians, some Moroccans, but Moroccans are more like, they look more Spanish almost. But there's a lot, because Vermont's a beautiful place and it's very open space. There's not a lot of jobs and there's not a lot of money here, but it's not that racist. So we have that. New Hampshire's bad. There's there's Manchester, New Hampshire. That's a city. But from what I've seen in New Hampshire, like, people say that there are still people in the White Mountains that train pit bulls specifically to target people of color. It's a generation that's gone. Like, nobody's on that type of time anymore, but they're still around, and they're like holding on to their culture deep in like some shitty small town. But those are called I think you guys probably know about sundown towns. There are still sundown towns around New England. I broke down in one this spring when I started really getting heavy on making content. I broke down in a sundown town, and I had to deal with the people coming in and pointing a gun at me while I'm in my car, and coming at me with a hatchet or like a baton, and I had to beat him and hack his ribs up with a hatchet. And then the whole town turned on me, and I had to escape into the woods. And I lived in a cabin in the woods for a couple months. And then I just kept trying, going into places, trying to get a job, trying to do what I can, and nobody would hire me. I kept getting trespassed for no reason. The police would target me and kind of bully the fuck out of me. And then I had to call other precincts to tell them what they were doing and try to make noise with it. And then they just stole my car. Like, the police stole my car, so I left. And then I've been going north since. But I'm way better than the kids that I grew up with. Like, the kids that judge me for my lifestyle. And they might drive like a 2023 Kia, and they're engaged. and they have an apartment. But I know when I stand next to them, everyone in the room can tell that I've just what you I don't want to say it like that because they might say I'm ego-centered, whatever. But I'm more of a man than they are. I've had to be in fights now. I've had to live outside of my own. I've had to hunt for food. I've had to live out in the cold for 3 winters. I've had to do so much in my life, and I made the most of it. Like I went from being fat, autistic loser to dating some of the prettiest girls in my hometown, like the best looking girls inside and outside. And I had to do it all on my own. I had no support at all. I had no support at all. Like I had more opposition than most people. Like my friends were trash, and my family are very mentally ill. So I had to do it all on my own with just me, my mind, and YouTube. And I've done a lot for a lot of people, like thousands of people, in and out of different programs and traveling around the country. And I'd say Vermont's one of the most beautiful places on earth, but the people here have some serious problems with the way society is now. Vermont's got a lot of issues. Like I would encourage people to move here, but I'd encourage people to move here with a gun and to have a stable job, to have land, so that they can be a change and not have to rely on the community as much. And then you can start to appreciate the bits of the community that are still present. Because there is Vermont is one giant small town. It's all, every 5 miles is a new little settlement that's completely different than the last 5 miles. So I love music, and I appreciate like energy and all this stuff. So I know when I go into places, I can get a read for how people talk and act, and the way the community is centered, and the way that people are. And I'm telling you, every single 5 mile place that I go, it's completely different. It's like stepping into a different family. But they're all one small town at the same time across Vermont. So it's just that, and then there's just a problem with lonely fat white people. Lonely, not necessarily fat too, just lonely white people seem to be ruining it for everybody else. They're like overextending themselves, they're over dramatizing everything, they're attacking each other, they're making everyone feel uncomfortable, they're making things violent, they're like spreading their delusion around and keeping everybody on edge because they feel like they constantly have to attack each other in the spiritual realm for energy. Because everyone here smokes weed. Vermont, they're all getting high. So everybody lives in that spiritual way. And I think that there is a portal above Mount Mansfield that allows for higher vibrational energy to come through. That makes the experience more vivid for people. That makes it like a bubble over us. That when you go to New York, you don't get that bubble. It's just different. So we have that. So the best way I could say is that I'd have to get good at fighting. I'd have to get a nice car to be able to pull up in these small towns and cause a scene. And then I'd have to have the ability to defend myself and have a gun on me and a dog, probably like a County Corso or something, or a Central Asian Shepherd, a big dog. And then I can step into places and make a change. I don't know about Area 51, but I know the Hopi said that the Snow Bowl Mountains, the Native Americans had them clocked, and they had a map of all the different portals that allowed for higher dimensional aliens to come through and speak with them. And coincidentally, all of those places, the wealthy elites have bought up and built ski resorts on top of. They bought and did. They're just some places they just bought and then ruined. Yeah, people have been I've been having dreams about the Grand Canyon is calling to me. Rick and Morty had an episode where there is like an ancient species of people that live deep in the Grand Canyon. Something about the Grand Canyon is calling to me. I was waiting till I had a camera, a computer, a studio, an RV, a guitar, and then maybe a dog, and then a solar panel on there, and then Starlink Wi-Fi, so that when I set off from Vermont, I didn't have to suffer through the desert with scorpions and shit. I had like a motorcycle in the back of an RV with like a ramp to get me up through it, and I'll take the door down and build a bigger door so I could ride the motorcycle into the RV have my bed there with the dog bed, have like a pull-up bar dip station that folds out so I can work out in the morning, have an e-bike to DoorDash when I pop up out of city, and then I have guns, and then I can go to MMA gyms and I can fight against the Matrix while also learning how to fight. So I go into these brainwashed communities and I learn their martial arts skill, and I'm also solving their mental health issues because they're trapped in the cities. And I'd live stream it for the world to see. But right now I'm smoking cigarettes and sitting outside, waiting until the sun comes up and then leaving before the crazy white people get here. And I'm an avid white. Dr. Umar would love me, man. Dr. Umar would have a field day with me. I might have to turn this shit sideways because my phone cord doesn't reach. But I appreciate you guys watching, man. I'm gonna turn it sideways. It does mean a lot. Like I come on here hoping that I can make a difference and share some things that maybe people might not realize are real. And then I talk about all the wealthy millionaires that I grew up with, and my dad used to teach their kids how to ski. And I talk about how they follow numerology and just the stuff that I've learned as I've gone that has helped me to be able to be kind of focused and sane. Like they used to call me Crazy Casey in school, and now those people call me apologizing because they had a spiritual awakening and they realized that the whole time I was a leader and I was holding it down. Like during a full moon last year, the girl that made up the rumor and called me Crazy Casey and tried to get kids to bully me in school called me and said she had a spiritual experience, and she went back through her memories and realized that I was actually like the only person that was sane, and everybody else in my small town school was brainwashed by television and completely controlled. And she was like, I actually didn't realize that I respected you for sitting in the back and building Legos and not being a part of it. And I realize now how smart you were, because you could just name all the state capitals and you never even did your work, but you passed with high honors. Because I'd be oppositional and I'd say, I don't want to do any work, I'm not going to show up to school on time. And then at the end of the year, give me ISS and put all my papers stacked up, and I'll just sit in ISS and bang them out. And I graduated with high scores on all my stuff every year. And it was just because it didn't feel natural for me. I'd go into school and I felt like everybody was faking. And I'd sit with they thought that I had special needs, so they sit me with the para, a really nice woman that volunteers her time, and I'd just have conversations with an adult all day. And we would laugh together at the kids that were pretending to be iCarly and shit. And then I'd my one friend and I would get together and we'd get as many kids as we could, and we'd try to run away from school together. And all those kids happened to have Irish last names that were with Brian Boru, my ancestor in the Battle of Clontarf. You feel me? And my dad lived on the top of a mountain owned by one of the wealthiest families in the world because he taught their kids how to ski. So I lived up there in a giant room full of Legos, and I would just walk in an empty mountain that was a ski resort but was closed down, so it was just a completely empty blank slate mountain that I would just walk on with my dog every day with my dad. And my dad had problems. He was like this really charismatic, funny guy. They called him Gary the Legend O'Brien. And he's a Leo. Everyone wanted to be around him. But he had a lot of self-esteem issues because of trauma. Like one time, the story is, like, I asked around about it. People said that somebody's wife in a small town liked my dad and said something to her friend, and then that got back to her husband. So one day they had enough of it, and the police found my dad on a back road. He was bringing one of my first ever sleepovers with one of my first friends when I was like 6 or 7. And the police stopped him. They said he didn't use his blinker. When he did, I remember he used his blinker, but they pulled him over anyway. They called backup before they even got to my dad, so there was already like 3 or 4 cruisers there. The whole department showed up. And they tried to reach in and grab my dad's keys. So my dad reacted and he rolled the window up and then slammed it in reverse. The cop was flying like a cartoon. And then they ripped my dad up out of the car, and then it took 7 cops to get him down. It took a ton of police. And then they grabbed me out of the car, and then they ripped me out of the car, and they put me in front of my dad, and they were holding my arms, like stretching me, and it hurt. And they were making him try to humiliate himself in front of me, and they were laughing about it, and then they took me away. On the one day I felt like my dad was like in his element. My dad was happy, we were all joking around, we were having a good time, we were about to have an amazing night. That could have changed our lives forever. Because we were just completely, and it was me and a Moor, someone that was a Moor, like the Moor family from Morocco that supposedly taught the world civilized culture. It was O'Brien's and then Brian Moore. And then my sister's name is Danielle and his wife's name was Danielle. And then his son's name was Brian. So we had 2 O'Briens, 2 Danielles, and 2 Brians. Isn't Danielle from the river Daniel in Africa? And then my name's Casey, which comes from the acacia tree in Africa. And we're both Sagittarius. But shit like that happened, man. I wish I could save my dad. I don't know how to do it without being rich. And my dad's 70. He's gonna be the age Brian Boru died in his elemental year of the monkey. When Brian Boru died in battle, saving the world, saving Ireland from Vikings. Brian Boru left at 14, the same way I left home at 14, and he spent his whole life trying to convince Ireland to kick the Vikings out. And they just ostracized him the whole way. He'd go to a castle and be like, look, I used to have this amazing place, but now I'm traveling around with a group of Irish people fighting back against the Vikings that are raping our people. And the people would turn him away. They'd be like, that's not happening to me. That's happening down in Dublin. That's happening down in Brattleboro. I'm in Montpelier, basically. So it took him 50 years from 14. It took him 49 years, 14 to 73, for him to finally get the grandchildren of his peers to come with him and defeat the Vikings when it got out of control. And he died in battle and never got to see the victory that he fought his whole life for. But he had many children, and if you put my dad right next to the statue of Brian Boru, they're identical completely. Completely, like they're the exact same person. The only difference is my dad and I have this giant, long, thick hair that... And then psychics tell me that every time I sit down with a psychic, they tell me that there are Native American war chiefs with the headdresses that are standing next to me with their hands on my shoulders. And they see giant Irish people behind them. And I have dreams where there's a giant portal opened up in the sky, and there's a giant barbarian king with like the armor and a giant hammer, and he's just looking down at me. Yeah, my dad he falls into alcohol and he gets in trouble. He might be going to jail. I don't know what happened. But my dad, even in his 70s, like, someone stole my dad's car. My dad had a nice 1999 Lexus. And he wanted to give it to me. But he would drive drunk and he crashed it and he fucked it up. So he had somebody that offered to fix his car, and then they stole the car. And this guy, my dad was late 60s. This guy is like 40s or 50s, almost like double my dad's height. Probably not double, but like my dad's probably maybe like 5'8", 5'9". This guy was obviously like 6'6". Huge crackhead. Stupid, but he's huge. And my dad went to go beat the fuck out of him. My dad took a sink and then whipped it at the house. screaming. And the guy whooped him, but he took the beating. My dad's a tank. He's a badass. I just wish that I could have gotten through to him. I wanted to kidnap all of them and bring them to my own land and then have them be free from their restrictions. Have them go out in the woods all day and hang out. But they're narcissists. They're actual narcissists. As much as I love them. There's no way to stop. And they're getting worse. My mom's getting worse. My mom is actually getting worse. And I fought for a year. All she wanted to do was go out in the woods and build an A-frame cabin. At a bush, she wanted to do bushcraft. So I fought for 3 years traveling, and I finally found a piece of land for her to build that A-frame cabin if she wanted to, right next to my abandoned cabin where I raised a family of robins this spring. And she's just... She's watching. She's looking for reasons to call the police. My mom's looking for a way to hurt me, basically. And there's just no getting through to her. As much as I see people for who they are, not their decisions. I see who they are under their influences. I'm the highest form of empath possible. When I hang out with people, I can see who they are. So I don't hold it against them, but it hurts, man. It hurts to have the people that are supposed to help you be the ones hurting you. Like, my parents only help me for clout. My mom will only help me if there's somebody that she can tell that she helped me, if that makes sense. If there's no one around, they don't give a fuck. They have to be the savior. And they'll make up problems. So the sun is coming up. Reality's kind of setting in. Anyone here, regardless of your problems, I'm just going to say it really quickly. All disease in the body is caused by parasites. You can't get a bacterial infection. Inside that bacteria is because there's a parasite in your body that's shitting because it's eating you. And those parasites also stimulate your nervous system to drive your mind to feed the parasites. That's where sugar addiction comes from. Sugar addiction completely is parasites in your body that are guiding your body to keep eating sugar. There's no reason, like, the body can live without sugar completely, and it can survive off fat. There's no health benefits to sugar at all. So when people stop eating, like how all religious texts say to fast, fasting, your body goes in and it looks inside and it says, okay, I'm not getting the same stuff I was getting before. And it looks and it's like, what's not serving me that I can eat first? So it finds all your cancer cells and your damaged cells and the parasites and the things that aren't natural for the body, and it just eats those. It's called autophagy, A-U-T-O-P-H-A-G-Y, autophagy and apoptosis. So when you start fasting, it'll suck because you're weaning off an addiction to sugar, but it will heal you. Then all the foods that you've eaten have destroyed your gut microbiome, and that gut microbiome is responsible for all the chemicals that your brain needs to function. So a lot of people have depression and all these problems because their factory that creates the chemicals are ruined. So when you cut off sugar, start taking things like probiotics or drinking kombucha, going out in the woods, going swimming at a lake, introducing yourself to different bacterias that your body will naturally learn to fight off. So that's step 2, is taking out the bad, taking in the good, stimulating your immune system. Then it's just like vegetables and stuff like that have metals and minerals from the ground that the body doesn't process very well, and that gets past your blood-brain barrier and it sits in your head. So get your vitamins from things like like those smoothies at Walmart, those naked smoothies, or multivitamins. And then your brain is made out of DHA, which is a chain of omega-3s. You can get that from fish really easily, and you can also get that from just taking omega-3s. Then take like protein shakes with maybe almond milk or something low sugar. And then just do that consistently for a while, and you will literally spiritually evolve. You'll biologically evolve back to being like not able to fit into society with how healthy you become. You'll start to see like gas station food, and it will make you sick because you realize how bad it actually is. And then you can do things like connect to sunlight. And then there's the different practices I talk about with the Higgs boson and meditation and all that stuff. But step one is just to take out the bad, add in the good, and get rest and learn to breathe again. And then then the peace of mind comes back to you, and you'll be able to have positive relationships and change yourself and your family members and your community just by example. That's the only way that I've seen to save the world, basically. Feel me? So that's that. Is it 5? It's 5:30, so I gotta pack my shit. And then I don't know, maybe I'll go to sleep. What's my charge at? I'll go up there, and if I want to come back down, I'll go to Walmart. It's today Friday? Yeah. So that's... If anybody has any quick problems that they're suffering with, that they just feel trapped in, I'll try to give any good advice I have before I go. Fuck 'em. Talking about the people that are gonna show up to work here that treat me like shit. Alright. Alright. Yeah, I'll take the phone with me. I'll leave the live on while I go up. I have to climb up a giant hill to my penthouse tent that overlooks the whole town. To fall asleep before the crows show up so that I can not let them get to me. You heard? Okay. And I'm waiting on like 500 to 1,000 subs, and then I'm gonna reach out to people from my past. Like I know somebody that has a multi-million-dollar tow company that I definitely helped him cure his cancer with this fasting, autophagy, apoptosis, ketosis, sunlight, probiotics, multivitamins, omega-3s, rest, going outside in the woods, out to the ocean every morning to get all the different frequencies of light, to stimulate your brain to activate better, to lose your mind and come to your senses. But, so I know they definitely probably have cars and access to more things, but I don't want to come back as a sob story that says, I need help. I want to say, hey, I've got this thing going. This would help me get in a better direction. So I'm waiting to hit that first leg. Once I make it past that threshold, and I'm just taking it day by day. I'm trying to enjoy the world the way it is before it changes drastically with AI and robots. What the fuck is this? What the hell? Look at this. This is a beer can, and somebody ripped up all the flowers off of these trees. Somebody ripped up all the flowers off of these trees and then chucked a beer can. I'm gonna take 3 of them and I'm gonna plant them at the top of the hill. I'm gonna take all of them, actually. All right. I'm gonna take these and plant them up at top by my tent. Yeah, it's gonna. As I go up the hill. Should I stay awake, go get, and then go back to the scary berry and try to get the things I need from the post office? And then a week. I thought I ended the live. I can't show you my tent, man. Can I do the... I can. Check out my penthouse. So I moved it so all the screens are facing out. So I have this huge view of the mountains through the trees. I've got my bikes. I'm just off the trail, so I hope no one bothers me. I'm sitting on a couch cushion on the tent tarp. I'm smoking my last cigarette. It's really peaceful out here. The birds are awake. I'm having a good time, man. I'm really grateful I got to see the world in this way. So I'm going to watch some videos from spiritual masters talking about the solutions they found to people, stuff that helps me a lot. I'm going to try to be at peace. If I feel tired, I'm going to go to bed. If not, I'm going to go up and rampage through the world to make my dreams come true. Keep your head up, stay positive, stay focused. Thank you for watching. I appreciate everyone that sticks around. Without you guys, I wouldn't be making YouTube videos. So I hope that I offered some value, even if it was just some funny moments here and there sometimes. So thank you for watching.